Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talk with the Titans, live from London, UK, all the way to the US of A and worldwide. I'm your host, Kalam, and this is Talk with the Titans. Oh, man. You know, I got my Shia brothers in full force today. Brothers like Hassan Bahari, men like Shadi, and Raza, and the evil genius. Man like Said Ali. Have I missed anybody out? Apologies. Oh, no, come on. The paradise man himself, man like Fardus. What's good? Let's get it, family. Let's get it. So I'm going to put it over to my brothers, my Shia brothers. They're going in right now. They're debunking all of the Sunni lies right about now, and they're going to tell you the real. So let's get it, family. Peace.
Good to go?
That's you, Sayed. That's you, Hassan Bukhari.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kalam, for inviting us on the show. You already know Deontay here and the evil genius, but other members of the team haven't been on before. So thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come today to discuss this topic. It's really weird. Whilst I'm happy that we've come on today, it's really unfortunate that we've had to come on and talk about this topic in particular, the issue of racism. Obviously, racism is an important topic. In that, there's no doubt, and obviously, it's come to the forefront again. 25 years after the death of Stephen Lawrence, there's discussions again about racism in communities. But for us, on a very personal level, I never thought there'd be a time where we would have to come on a TV show, whatever format, to discuss the issue of racism and its alleged nexus with Shia Muslims. This was something that it just beggars belief. You know something, Callum, it's interesting. Obviously, you've had some experience as well. Members of the team have been on the channel here. Obviously, you've seen Sunni Shia differences at Hyde Park, so you're kind of familiar with the differences amongst the sects, particularly the two main sects of Islam. But obviously, there are some things that we have like a commonality, where, for example, there's no dispute. All Muslims are in agreement on a certain issue, and there's no point in disputing it. And for me, that issue, which I thought was an absolute given for all Muslims, was there's 1 billion of us, and we're all sort of bound together by the umbrella of Islam. We all come under this umbrella. There's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger, peace be upon him and his family. So the general thinking was always, it was a matter of pride that Islam is all encompassing in terms of color, in terms of culture. So it doesn't really matter if you're white, black, yellow, whatever your color. Islam is colorblind. We all come within this family as Muslims. So it really created a shock for me when we had, one group of individuals who are prominent on a certain channel. They decided, let's throw an entire sect under the bus just for our own fame or whatever their reasoning is, and I'll go through that, and let's paint them as racists. And for what purpose? For me, that was something which just astounded me. I thought there's something that no Muslim would be divided on. I mean, for us, we've got very clear traditions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family, on the concept of there is no racism within Islam. I'm talking about equality, etc. And obviously, then we have modern day figures which have openly sort of talked about the fact that Islam is colorblind. If you read the biography of Malcolm X, he talks about his experiences on Hajj. When he went on Hajj, there were people that what impressed him is people with one attire but different colors of skin, all performing the pilgrimage, and that's something that took him back. So for us, when we have this commonality, and all of a sudden a real curveball is thrown to say, actually, yeah, okay, Muslims, we're not racist, but these guys, these guys here, they don't like black people. And to be honest, that hurt. It shocked me, shocked all of us, and really that's why we thought it was important that we came here today to address this. And I'll be very clear. In normal circumstances, I would be one of those people which would ignore them. Certainly, as a team, we thought they're not really worth their time. But so serious were these allegations, we thought we need to come on I mean, to address them head on. Now, that said, thinking it through, immediately after they did their two shows, and obviously Kalam was there as well. And this is the thing. This is why we thought the need to come on to Titans TV. Poor Kalam got sucked into this. So we thought, okay, we should come on. But, at the time I was thinking to myself, it shocked me. And I was thinking in my mind, what's the sort of reasoning behind this? Why have they done what they've done? And for me, I see three things here. I think they had three objectives. Number one, the effective use of the R word, racism. Number two, to try and create community conflict. And number three, diversion. So I want to try and address those 3 points before I kind of hand over to the other brothers. In terms of that, what I mean is, first one is racism, effective use. For me, one thing that we know, that if you tar somebody with a racist brush, it really sticks, and it can really, really be harmful in terms of their career, in terms of how they're viewed by other people. My thinking was, what if you effectively threw this racism kind of slur on us? You know what? It doesn't matter what we did in the future. I mean, I've got a lot of very close, black brothers from Muslim community, non-Muslim community. No, it doesn't matter what you do in the future. You could present Islam in a positive way. You could present arguments in a positive way. But you still have it in the back of your mind, okay, but you still follow a sect that's racist. And that was something that I felt was one of their sort of objectives. Let's throw that race card and make it stick. So it doesn't matter what they do in the future, they'll always be tarred with that brush, that racist brush, because it's so damaging. I think that was the first point. The second point was to create community sort of conflict between ourselves and the black community, whether they come from a Muslim background, a Sunni Muslim background, or a non-Muslim background. And I'll tell you why. This is honestly, I mean, when I think this through, for me, up until a few months ago, Kalam, you could probably confirm this point. These guys who, are based in this channel, they adhere to that sect. They'd effectively taken control of Hyde Park like it was some sort of a God-given right, like Israelis claim some sort of a religious right to Jerusalem. They almost seem to think Hyde Park is our God-given right as Muslims. We Muslims of this sect have a right to profess and present their version of Islam, and nobody else can. I think that was one thing. And what was the version of Islam that was being presented? Let's look at it from the outsider perspective, the way that these people were presenting themselves. It was a very, very aggressive form of Islam, an intolerant form of Islam, one that mocked people with other beliefs. Constantly, I'd seen many examples on videos. They didn't have any respect for any other individuals. So that was the sort of perception that was being created by these individuals. They'd taken control of Hyde Park, and it was almost like, we are the dons here. We are the representatives of Islam. No one else can come in. And the manner in which they were behaving was creating a very negative perception. Now, if that was then, go back a couple of months on that day when we decided that we would go en masse, because obviously these individuals had been saying a lot of bad things about Shia Muslims as well. So we thought we'd go en masse and we'd try to sort of present ourselves in a positive manner. And as you can see, when we went there en masse, the vibes that we gave off by people, the way that we presented ourselves, we were not aggressive. We were not violent. We were well-mannered. Everything that we did, we tried to present ourselves in, even down to our presentation, we made it clear how we behave. We don't want to go scruffily. Everything was kind of set how we wanted to go and present ourselves. And the vibes that we got, the feedback that we got was very, very positive. People coming up to us and saying, hang on a minute. And they're thinking as well, these guys are Muslims too, but they're not like these guys. And they approached us and said, so what do you believe? So we told them that we are Shia Muslims. And really the perception was very, very positive. Ours wasn't, we were not in any way motivated to create trouble, any sort of tensions. It was simply there to present ourselves in a positive manner. And you know something? What motivated us, there's one of the sayings of our Imams, peace be upon him. he actually said that you need to present yourselves in a way that when people see people see you, they will automatically know that you're a Shia just by the way that you present. And that really was a motivation for us. And you know, Callum, on that first day that we weren't very successful in the sense we wanted to engage with certain individuals who had been bad mouthing Shias. They didn't engage with us. And I remember going back on the train that day and thinking, you know, was it really worth it? You know, we spent a number of hours. It was cold. It was dark. It was dreary. Was it worth his while? I get home and my daughter's watching Titans and you're on it. And on that, in your lingo, which my daughter translated, being too old, I didn't follow all of it. But you was kind of talking about how the Shias took the park that day and how that we were positive and the way that we presented ourselves and how impressed you was. So for me, just those comments seemed to were very positive. It's like, hang on a minute, we did what we wanted to do. We wanted to present ourselves in a positive way. We wanted to show Islam in a positive way. It isn't a religion of intolerance. And I felt that having gone there that day in that group, I felt proud that that's exactly what we'd achieved. I think that's one of the points that I wanted to kind of stress. The other thing that I felt was really important was even after that, Callum, there's been non-Muslims have contacted us, they've contacted the channel, you know, people with faith, people who don't have faith. They've said that, you know, we respect you guys. When you go to Hyde Park, when you speak, you're different to these guys. So for us, it's been a kind of a positive vibe, particularly the Black brothers who might not be Muslim, but they've given us maximum respect. I've seen how they've stood with Raza. I mean, every time we've gone, we've had no tension. They've given us that kind of respect. And I do feel the whole purpose of what that video was done was to try and create a wedge because we'd had forward very good relations. And the whole idea was to do that. To try and create that tension and say, hang on a minute, these guys that you support, that you speak positively about, you know what, there's this underlying thing that they don't really like black people and they're lying and actually they're just downright racists. And and that was, you know, really what their aim was, to let's try and separate the black community from Shia Muslims. That was the second thing I felt that they did. But you know something, bro? Callum, we are a tolerant people. We respect people. And that was our objective when we went there. You know, Imam Ali, alayhi salam, said that people are two types, your brother in faith or your brother in humanity. And that's really something that's kind of, for us, has been very important, the way that we've presented ourselves. We wanted to show that we are a tolerant people, peace-loving people. You know, we are British citizens. We're proud of our Britishness. Yes, and we're Shia. But we are not these type of individuals. And Callum, if you look at history from 9/11 in the West up until now, I challenge you, you'll never find any Shia Muslim that's ever been convicted of any sort of terrorist-related offence, whether it's involving a conspiracy to commit terror or partaking in terrorism, where it's involved maiming and killing innocent men, women and children. That's not our way. Unfortunately, that isn't the way of these individuals that have kind of almost hijacked Hyde Park over the years. They ascribe to that same ideology of intolerance, of hatred, where we might be not just deviant, we're non-Muslim in their eyes. You know, we're apostates. We worship idols or whatever sort of nonsense they talk. Where there's a hatred of other people as well. You know, where if you're not a Muslim, then you're a deviant, then you're an ignorant, and all sorts of name calling that you will experience at Hyde Park. You know, and there's also this arrogance that we are the right people and everybody else is deviated. So, you know, if you compare the two, you know, that sort of culture of intolerance and violence and aggression, you can see where it's coming from, and it's not us. And you know something? It's these same people, you know, which have this ideology of extremism. They have no qualms when they then partake in acts of violence in Hyde Park, whether it's verbal or physical assaults. And they've got no qualms in sharing extremist kind of poetry, which talks about beheading Shias, because this is the way that they behave. You know, my way or the highway, and we will get our point across, even if it's through aggression. And I think the third point, sorry, I've kind of hopped on a bit, but I think the third, objective that they wanted to do, and I'll be honest with you, I really thought this through, it was actually to deflect attention. You see, not only have Shia Muslims become had a very positive portrayal in recent months since they've been on, obviously on your channel, since we've been on Hyde Park, and since we've set our own channel up. Not only have we been viewed positively, these individuals have been outed as extremists, thugs, intolerant people, aggressive people. So obviously, you know something? It's like if you look at history, whenever people's backs are against the wall, even if it's governments or whatever, they'll try and create some form of deflection. So the issue goes elsewhere. So don't look at us, because all the heat was on them. We're seeing individuals that are aggressive and violent. And they thought, I tell you what, the best thing to do now, let's deflect attention and let's portray Shias as racist. Whilst everyone, the black community, everyone's kind of spitting on them and reviling them, all the heat is off us. And I think that was a real kind of a motivation for them to do what they did. And I do think that was really something that was important to them. For them, it was almost a necessity. It was quite literally the proverbial had hit the fan for them, and they needed to throw it elsewhere. Now, in terms of there was one thing, Kalam. I'll address that at a point in a second. Kalam, I think your video, you yourself said a very interesting point. You said, what are you guys doing? Have you got a genuine fear that black people will have some sort of interest with what Shiism is about? And honestly, Kalam, bro, you hit the nail on the head. We're not talking about converting people to Shiism. No. We are talking about people having an interest to see the Shia side of things. And you're absolutely right, Kalam. This was what it was all about. They did this video. Why do you think they said something to you? They said, oh, well, if you was on the street in Iran, they would spit on your face. That's nonsense in itself. And I think, Brother Sayyid Ali, you want to bring up the picture now or later? I think when Sayyid Ali talks, he'll expand on that point.
Well, while you're speaking, Sayyid, I'll actually bring up that picture.
Okay, right. Whilst I'm speaking, he'll bring up that picture. But that was the example. He just wanted to show you these Shias are so racist. Kalam, if you go to Iran, they'd spit on your face. That sort of comment. If an individual is racist, even if he's Muslim, that's down to that individual's bias. It's got nothing to do with religion. See what I'm saying? But you see the sort of tactic that they were playing. They're trying to get into your core to say, listen, man, these guys that you respect, these guys, they are racist. And the worst thing is how low they got. They were trying to present Kalam as someone who's going to be bribed by chicken. You see some of those comments? Oh, somehow, Raza's mum, she made some chicken and that's it. He sold out. Is that how you kind of it's almost you degrade somebody to that individual. Are we really that, is he really going to be sold out that much? That a nice chicken is something you think, oh, okay, these guys can't be racist because Raza's mum makes a decent roast. I'm sorry, I'm kind of digressing slightly, but I think, there was a point that I wanted to say. So obviously you mentioned that point, Kalam, and it was a really good point. Have you got this fear? And obviously, I remember on that video, they said, what do black people see if they invest in Shiism? This is a racist religion. I want to make a couple of points clear here.
Sorry, can I bring that image up for you, please?
Please.
Yeah, so you've got an image here of a Shia cleric kissing the hand of another Shia black brother. Can you see? Oh, give me a second. I'm going to screen share. I forgot to screen share.
Just wanted to point out to those guys.
Screen share?
There we are. Yeah.
So you've got image. This is in Iran, by the way.
This is in Iran. Oh. This is in Iran, and we've got obviously Islamic seminaries in Iran, which is full of brothers from the black community, from Africa, from West Indies.
Nigeria's got one of the highest Shia populations.
Exactly. So for example,
and Sheikh Gulpaigani is one of the top Maraja of Qom. He's not a simple cleric. He's one of the few 4 or 5 big Maraji in Iran.
Thank you, brother, for those. Yeah, I think apologies. There's a point that I wanted to say, but because they said something, they said, what do black people see? What do you get out of Shiism? It's a racist religion. Let me just make a couple of points. 3 very important points. Okay, Shiism is not been the state religion. We've always been basically you've got the main state religion, which is Sunni Islam. Okay. For us, it's always been the religion of the state, the religion of the kings. Shiism has traditionally, historically, been the religion of the poor, the destitute, looking for hope. because we've been oppressed. We have had 1400 years of constant oppression. So in many ways, our suffering and the fact that, our also because of our belief in hope in a better world, better life, what our experience, they resonate with the black communities. When I speak with black brothers and sisters who've suffered slavery and a history of oppression, when we talk about it, something clicks. Do you understand? We've got some sort of commonality. Point number one. Point number two is a point that Kalam made himself in his video. 4 of the Imams' mothers are from African descent. They've got black heritage. And the most interesting thing, Kalam, is we believe in the last of the Imams, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, he will come at the same time as Jesus Christ, and they will establish the kingdom of God on earth. This is a concept that we believe in. And Muslims believe that in general. He's got black heritage. So all Muslims, certainly as Shia Muslims, we are waiting for a man with black ancestry to come. And the traditions say when he comes, all the injustice in the world, it will be replaced by justice. He will establish the kingdom of God on earth. So we are waiting for a black brother to come and establish it, our Imam. So, to say that we are racist is in itself absolute. I mean, you mentioned that as a nonsense, but just to point out that the final kind of proof of God on earth that we believe in is of black ancestry. So 4 Imams. Point number 2. That was point number 2. And point number 3, we've got a historical link with black people. Do you know something? Karbala is one of the key issues for us as Shia Muslims, for us when our 3rd Imam stood up to oppression and tyranny of the king of the time. And he laid down his life for it. He refused to accept the authority of an individual such as that. And he was slain. Okay? Now, if you look at the history, he was slain with his companions. And one of those companions was an individual called John. He was an Abyssinian Christian that converted to Islam. And he was a close companion of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and he was martyred in Karbala. He gave his life, a black man, for our 3rd Imam. And you know something, Kalam? When you go to, as Shia Muslims, we go to shrines because we go and we sort of send our salutations to these great martyrs. And we visit the shrine of Hazrat John as well. And you know something? We have something called supplications as Shia Muslims for these great people. There is a specific supplication for Hazrat John. And in that it says, you are an individual who's purified and your blood has sanctified this land. A black man who laid his life for our Imam. Okay? And one more point. The history of Shiism in Karbala, in the tragedy of Karbala, had an individual by the name of Fizza. She was actually from Ethiopian royalty. Of her own free will, she left Ethiopia to become a member of the household of the Prophet. She served Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, the Prophet's family. She loved Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam. She brought up her sons, and she could have gone. She gave up this life of pomp, of royalty, and she saw all of the suffering of Karbala. She could have gone back to Ethiopia. She stood there. She oversaw this tragedy, and she was the rock of all. Because in Karbala, men and boys were slaughtered. She was the rock for the women there. A black lady. She stood up to oppression. Wherever things were said against them, they were suffering oppression, she stood up and spoke. Time and time again, there's examples of her. So for us, and you know something, Kalam? She remained alive until the 5th Imam. They used to call her mother. That's how close the association was. So for us, there is a direct nexus between ourselves as Shia Muslims and the black community. We owe a lot to her.
Hassan Bahari, just a quick point as well, because to be honest with you, all these personalities, we can do a whole show on them.
Yes.
Yeah, because
do you know something, Kalam? Sorry, bro.
Say one quick point. I just want to point out, even the shrine of Sayyidah Fizza in Damascus, she's buried in a very famous cemetery called Bagh-e-Saghir.
Correct.
And in that cemetery, since the Shias have been visiting there, they've recently reconstructed her shrine again, and they've even built a roof. So, if our attitude towards black people was something negative and we were racist, would we have ever done that?
Exactly. And another thing, Kalam, you know something? We're talking about this very topic. My daughter in year 7, for Black History Month, she did her whole topic on Hazrat Fizza. just to talk about black personalities and their obviously during Black History Month and how they've impressed her, and she did all the research on this topic. So for us as Shia Muslims, it's a matter of pride that we have got black role models, and they're not like, you know something, bro. I'll tell you something, Kalam. You know, we had plenty of black brothers which were really vexed up by this, and they wanted to come on and speak as well. But you know what? We did this on purpose. We didn't bring them because we didn't want these clowns to say, "Oh well, they've got a token black guy here." We didn't want to do that. We've got brothers which can come on the show. They were really, really angry, but we said, "Listen, you bros, let us deal with this. We'll bring you on other shows. We could show you many, but this is our time." They've accused us of racism. We're going to set the record straight, and it's a one-off. You know, they can do as much comedy as they want thereafter. Because it was important for us to come on and present ourselves, we've done it today. So, inshallah ta'ala, I think that's my opening. Apologies, it was a bit long. And if I'm going to switch my mic off, and if the other brothers want to continue.
Yeah, I'll continue. So, before I start, I just want to begin with a few notes. I'd like to say thank you to Sheikh Ahmad Salman for his assistance. God bless you. Thank you for the material that you've given us. So I want to speak a little bit about this group that we're responding to. So, I mean, what, you guys have now become the flag holders of social equality and justice all of a sudden? Now you guys are the social justice warriors I mean, what is happening now? Are you coming from a sect who's famous for racism, who's famous for oppression, whose governments are known for expelling black people from their government, known for favoring Arabs over non-Arabs, for example, Banu Umayyah. So the goal of these people is to make the Shia school of thought appear as a school of thought that promotes racism and injustice, okay? Where in fact the Western world, along with thousands of innocent Muslims who have been oppressed and killed by Salafi groups, which this particular group supports, they support their religion, by the way, they're from the same religion, the same sect, are witnesses to the fact that the Wahhabi Salafi sect is a sect whose leaders are famed for racism, terrorism, and oppression. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all of these groups, political entities such as Banu Umayyah, the Umayyad Empire, who are the forefathers of modern-day Salafists, meaning the military Salafists, they are the masters of both racism and oppression. And I want to bring up another thing. 50%, around 50% of those who narrated the 6 authentic books of the Sunni sect, Az-Zuhri and his students were in fact aligned with the racist government of Banu Umayyah. 50% of your books are narrated by Az-Zuhri and his students who were known for their hatred against Ahlul Bayt and who were known for their hatred, who were known to support the Umayyad government, who were known to be racist. Moreover, the Abbasid, an Abbasid emperor or leader or king, whatever you want to call him, may God curse him. What did he say about Al-Qadhim? Al-Qadhim. What did he say about him?
Shadi, your microphone is on mute.
Sorry. He used to make fun of Al-Qadhim for being black. He would write poetry in order to attack him. And this is the group who you want us to follow? I don't think so. So with those preliminary notes being said, I would like to get into the crux of the issue. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Just a quick one, Shadi. Can you just point out who Imam Kazim is as well?
Imam al-Qadhim is considered an imam of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. He is considered an imam who we consider a person of, who is the fountain of prophethood, who gives us knowledge, gives us information on how to live. He is a person whose hands we'd kiss if we saw him today. He is a person whose grave we visit every single year. And he is a black man. And you're trying to say that we are racist? The Sunni sect, who is famous for insulting him, calling him a black slave, calling him a black man, all these dirty things that they would make fun of his skin color. Actually, they used to think he was a slave because his skin was so dark. When he turned around, they couldn't tell the difference between him and the other slaves. Sometimes they made a mistake. So this is who Al-Kadhim is, alayhi salam. Okay. So now that we spoke, we've given preliminary notes, I want to speak about the crux of the issue. Okay. So this particular Wahhabi group, in order to attack the Shia school of thought, has brought a narration from one of our books, Kitab al-Kafi. The narration reads as follows: beware marrying the people of Zanj, meaning the Zanzibar people, for they are a distorted creation. فَإِنَّهُمْ خَلْقٌ مَشَوَّهٌ. So, first of all, I want to talk about the most obvious thing. Okay? These narrations are not binding, nor are they of certain knowledge. This is because they are reported in a singular, solitary fashion. According to the methodology of both Sunni and Shia Usuliyin are basically the scholars of deduction when it comes to law and hadith and narrations. They state, if a sahih, authentic narration exists that is contradicted by the Quran and or other stronger narrations, the weaker solitary narration is thrown out and ignored. This is according to both Sunni and Shia Usuliyin. So what you have presented to us is a solitary, singular reported narration that is contradicted by other stronger reports, contradicted by the fact that the Quran is against racism, if indeed this hadith is racist, that is, which it isn't, by the way, but we'll get to that. And it also goes against the mutawatir reports that the imams have married black people. So how can you state that this is a binding narration when, according to both of your scholars and our scholars, this narration would be thrown out because of its solitary report? It's reported, by very few companions. The Imam, the sixth Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, he said, if you guys find any narrations that go against what the majority narrate in your books, or any hadith or narrations that go against the Quran, throw that narration away. We have not stated it. We have not stated it. So this is a very famous principle that we use. I mean, honestly, if you go into the Sunni books, I can find you authentic narrations that are ridiculous, that are even worse than what they're stating. Same thing with us. This is how religion works. When it comes to, sorry, I want to say religion in general, but this is how historical narrations work. Historical narrations will have good and bad no matter what. We are dealing with fallible men who are reporting reports. Therefore, the scholars have created principles in order to differentiate between those reports which are sound and acceptable, and those reports which are sound but denied because of their other weaknesses. That's the first point. Am I making this up? Let's see. We find from the famous Usuli Mujtahid Muhammad Baqir Sadr, the Iraqi scholar. He writes in his book, his famous Usul book, page 33, volume 7, who mentions this exact narration and the exact narration about the Kurds. He says, and I quote, for example, if there was a narration, i.e. a solitary narration, that attacked a specific group of people or race and talked about their bad qualities, or that they are a type of jinn, demonic figure, then we say this has clearly contradicted the Quran, which clearly outlines the unity of mankind. This is a mujtahid. A mujtahid, for the people listening, a mujtahid is a person who has reached a level of Islamic scholarship where they can be followed and whose rulings are binding on you if you follow them. By the way, they also have scholars who are of that level from the Sunni sect who were racist. And for example, Imam Malik, and the person who made the video, he himself admitted it. He said Imam Malik would say racist stuff, and his student or whatever, Ibn Hazm, would correct him. Habibi, Imam Malik is one of your pillars. He's your mujtahid. He's one of the scholars that your school makes taqleed of. There is no comparison here. How about the Sunni side? As-Sakhawi, the famous Usuli scholar, in his book Al-Ghaya, page 260, volume 1, and I quote, Just because a narration has an authentic chain does not necessitate that its contents are sound. The chain may be sound due to the trustworthiness of the men. However, the actual content of the narration itself may not be sound due to its solitary oddness or hidden defects surrounding the narration. There have been a number of hadith scholars who have weakened the narration after judging the chain of the narration to be sound. For example, Al-Hakim. So we can clearly see that As-Sakhawi, who is a famous Sunni Usuli scholar, stated that just because you see it says Sahih under it, it must be true. It must. I'm gonna have to completely dedicate my entire existence because it says Sahih under it. I mean, what is wrong? Use your mind. I mean, if this is how you're going to follow Islam, my friend, you're gonna have a lot of problems. You're going to have a lot of problems. Just because a narration has Sahih written under it, it doesn't mean it is 100%. It is uncertain knowledge. And this is according to An-Nawawi, Ibn Hajar, your mujtahideen, your scholars of law and hadith. And I'll give you another example. Yunus ibn Abdul Rahman, who was known as the leader of the Shia of his time. He was the companion of Rida, the 8th Imam. He showed Rida alayhi salam some books from the companions of the 5th and 6th Imam, and the 8th Imam denied some of them. He said, no, even though the companions narrated it from the Imams with very short chains, remember they're the companions of the Imams, the 8th Imam still denied it. He said, no, it is not correct. Some of these narrations are misheard. They wrote it down incorrectly. They messed up the chain, blah, blah, blah. Someone took the notebook they had and wrote in it. It happened before. It will happen again. So Sahih narrations are not the end all be all. These people who are debating us, they're like, I don't know, they think they're smart or something. They go to Google, they type in, okay, who's in the chain? Abdullah, Batiha, Batata, I don't know. Okay, they look Abu Fulan. Oh, okay, I'm gonna look them up in what the Dhahabi said. Oh, look, they're all authentic. They're all trustworthy. Oh, it must be what God said. I mean, they've dedicated their lives basically to this. To looking up like robots, oh, okay, what did they say about this person? No, that's not how you live your life. That's not how you analyze religion based upon who said what. You look at the content. You look at what's being said, not who's saying it. Okay? What else can I say about these people? I mean, so even if we were to accept this narration to be authentic, okay, there would be no issue. For the people of Zanj, the tribes of Zanzibar, who were described as khalqun mashawwah, a distorted creation, they were famous for putting plates into their lower lips. They were famous for putting plates into their earlobes. They were famous for putting bones into their faces. They would practice facial distortion due to both cultural and pagan influence. Okay, there were uncivilized Arabs. There were civilized Arabs. There were black empires who would conquer everything they saw in sight. The Ethiopian Empire, which was a mighty empire. They were black. They were not like these Zenji people. They're different. So for you to say that, when the word Zenj is used, Zanzibar, it's referring to all the blacks. No. Where did you get this from? Where did you get this from? I don't understand your line of reasoning, your line of logic. It doesn't make any sense. Another defense of this narration is the fact that there is a bigger picture. Okay? The sentence distorted creation is not referring to their physical characteristics, but rather to the fact that they are a people who would practice paganism. And this is specifically in reference to their paganism. This is proven by other narrations and supplications that specifically mention not only the Zanj, but the Khazari people, the Hindi people, the Sindhi people, and they are all mentioned in the same way. They are a people who basically give birth to bad creations. This is what the context of the narration is. It's talking about their bad characteristics. Not that is their bad characteristics in terms of how they act, how they pray, how they live their lives, not their physical characteristics. Okay? And this includes the narrations talking about the Akrad, the Kurdish people. The Kurds at that time are not the same as the Kurds today. Even if you go to Iraq or you go to Syria or you go to all these countries, they're not the same. They are different. Some people have even been absorbed in within these within the civilization. But anyways, forget all that philosophy. Let's just use our minds in a simple way. The people that he's talking about are the people who dwelled in the mountains, who were known for practicing sorcery and possession. Hence why he said they are a type of jinn, with the kashaf, with the a cover is removed from them. That's how they're a jinn who has a cover removed from them. That's what it means. It means that they would practice sorcery, they would practice possession, they would do all these type of things. It's not talking about the Kurdish people. And even if it is talking about Kurdish people, even if it is a racist hadith, like we said, if it is racist and it goes against the majority of our narrations and the Quran, we do not accept it. Okay. I want to give an example to the people who are listening, because maybe they're not familiar with what a hadith is, what a narration is, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to give an example so you guys can understand. Let's say 3 people come up to you and give you a story. Okay? The next day, 40 people come up to you and give you a story that contradicts what those 3 people have stated. Both the 3 and the 40, they're both known for their reliability. Who are you going to take? The 3 or the 40? This is what we mean. Just because you have 3 reliable people telling you a story, if you have a huge number which contradicts them, you're going to take the huge number. This is obvious. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the foundation of Islam. The fact that we prove things by hadith which are mutawatir, which are widely reported by hundreds of people. We don't just take one single narration and say, okay, well, it's sahih, so we're going to accept it like the Quran. No, you cannot do that. So, one more thing, and I'll give it up to the next person. He tried to equate the word zanj to black people. First of all, Habibi, Abu Abbas, whatever your name is, when you use Lane's lexicon, didn't you see the time period which he was using? It says what? The medieval dictionaries. He is using word usage from the 7th century all the way to the medieval period. And I know you're listening, so I want you to listen very carefully, so next time you make a video, you won't make the same mistake twice, okay? There is not a single time during the period of Imam Ja'far when the Ethiopians were called Zanj, Al-Zanj, or Zanzibars. There is not a single time where the Ethiopian Empire were called Zanzibars or Zanji people. Okay? So your little trick of going into Lane's lexicon is ridiculous. You have no proof because you're using a dictionary which goes all the way to the 15th, 16th century word usage. The hadith was stated what? During the time of the 6th Imam. There's a huge time gap. Okay? There's a huge time gap. What else? I'm going to bring up another funny and absurd comment that was made by another person. Actually, the same person who stated that the Shia school of thought contradicts itself because the imams would marry black people, while at the same time we would have hadith which are racist. First of all, Habibi, listen to me, okay? So you can understand. What you failed to grasp is the fact that the imams marrying black people is mutawatir. It is widely reported. The so-called racist material that you're bringing are solitary. They are singularly reported according to every scholar. Abu Fulan to Abu, I don't know, Trump, whatever. Habibi, listen. All the way to Trump. Let's just put it that way. This is fake news. I'll put it that way. This is what you're stating is fake news, okay? But anyways, from all the way to the beginning of Sunni scholarship all the way to the end, if a mutawatir report contradicts a solitary report, the solitary report is thrown away. It isn't used. Okay? And finally, the most I don't know what he was thinking when he stated this. He said, "Oh yeah, you know, Sunni scholars did say some pretty racist stuff." What else did he say? He said, "Oh yeah, Imam Malik said some racist stuff, you know, but he was corrected. We don't have infallible imams like you do." Yeah, Muallim, listen. The interpretation of a prophet from a fallible person is also considered fallible. Just because somebody says, "Oh, you know what? This is what the prophet stated," that's still his opinion, unless he quotes the prophet word for word. That's what the prophet is saying. But if he gives a commentary or a fatwa, or he makes a ruling based upon what the prophet said, this is his opinion. If you go to any scholar, whether Sunni or Shia, you go up to him and you go, "Is this your opinion?" He's gonna say, "No, Habibi, this is istidlal min al-Nabi. Habibi, this is from the Prophet himself. I'm just giving it to you. I'm just doing the work for you. I'm making deduction for you." That's what they'll say, both Sunni and Shia. So obviously, if our scholars make a legal ruling that states, "Oh, you can't marry Kurdish people," or "Hey, you know what? There's going to be some problems if you guys marry blacks or that, whatever." By the way, which is found within both schools, and both schools actually contradict each other as well when it comes to rulings. We have Shia scholars who say, "No, this is nonsense. Marry whoever you want." Some Shia scholars say, "No, don't do it." My understanding of the narration is it's not good for the social whatever fabric of your society. You're going to cause problems with the kids. A black dad and a white mom, they're going to cause them problems and fight with them because Arab people are racist and stubborn. This is one argument that a mujtahid could give. Okay, obviously he could be right or wrong. That's his opinion. Or another person can say, "You know what? Forget that. Who cares if their dad is black and their mom is white? We don't care about what other people state. We only care about what our religion states. They can marry. There's no ruling that's stopping it." That's one thing a scholar could say. So again, even the Sunni sect have differing opinions. So for you to say, "Oh, well, there's some fatwa," Habibi, I can show you fatwa. If I show you right now from your books, you will never accept it. And in fact, I have done that before. I went on your forum and I showed a fatwa from Ahmad ibn Hanbal. You guys deleted the whole thread and then banned me. And then Shimrani, what did he say? He responded to me. He said, "Oh, it must have been a manuscript error." A manuscript error? That's what he said. So, I don't know what you want me to say.
Hold on.
Manuscript error, you know.
That's a manuscript error, yeah.
Anyways, I mean, I was drinking my coffee, enjoying myself. Today is what? What's today? What is today? I don't even know what the day is. Wednesday. I thought, I'm gonna drink some coffee, enjoy myself. Now I have to respond to the KFC forum, Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's what we used to call them because,
Shadi, I just
don't
want
take them seriously.
Shadi, I just want to elaborate on a point just before I pass on to Brother Firdaus.
Go ahead.
Right. So he mentioned the fact that, look, scholars are not perfect, they're not infallible, and they can make mistakes, right? So why doesn't he accept this criteria when it comes to us? Scholars can also make mistakes. They can come to a ruling. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct. The irony is that he's come to an opinion that certain Shia scholars have, detested marriage with certain ethnic groups, which is fine because later on in the show, we will show from their books that they've not just got issue with marrying black people, but even Asian people, Oriental people, and so on. So it's going to get really interesting. So, Brother Firdaus, without further ado, I'll pass on. I don't know if you want to elaborate on Brother Shadi's point regarding those traditions.
السلام على محمد وعلى الطيبين الطاهرين أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, very eloquently put by Father Shadi. So from his eloquence to me with my broken English, I will try my best to present the points that were mentioned in their video. So I just begin with the Quran itself, that Quran came and removed all the racist stuff that exists among the Arabs, and this is in Surah Al-Hujurat, for example, we see in verse 13 that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhal nas inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha faja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum inna Allaha alimun khabir. O you men, surely we have created you of a male and a female and made you tribes and families, that you may know each other. Surely the most honorable of you with Allah is the one it is the one among you who is most careful or most God conscious. Surely Allah is all-knowing, aware. So this verse clearly mentions that the race is something that we have no choice in, and it by itself it has no merit whatsoever. Another point is that they are mentioned in the book Al-Kafi and some narrations Al-Kafi that and interpreted it as if these narrations present racism in the Shia Islam. But interestingly, the same books, Al-Kafi, if you go volume 2, there is an entire...
I'm going to bring it up on the screen while you...
Yes, there is an entire chapter. If you go to... I give you just narration number 2541, so you'll find also the chapter. There is an entire chapter which talks against racism explicitly with clear words. So I just read the first narration, or maybe Saidal, you can read it will be better.
I'm going to bring it up on the screen right now. So this is from Al-Kafi. You should be able to see my screen now. Is it coming up? Is it coming up on your screen, your side?
Yeah, I see that.
So, I mean, for example, in Al-Kafi, we have a whole chapter, that discusses racism quite in detail. And it says, I'm not going to read the whole chain. It's from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, who says, whoever exercises racial discrimination or it is exercised for him, he has taken off the collar of belief from his neck. Okay? Many traditions. There's numerous traditions mentioned in here with Imam.
There's an entire chapter, yes.
There's an entire chapter, right? And by all means, you can check this out. It's in Al-Kafi, volume 2, volume 8. Another one, the Messenger of Allah said, whoever has racist feelings in his heart of the size of a mustard seed, on the day of judgment, Allah will raise him with the Arabs of the times of Jahiliyyah. And again, this tradition here, it's a Sahih tradition. All the narrators are reliable and accepted. And by the way, the same tradition, ironically, is found in Sunni hadith as well. But we are going to later in this show apply it to some personalities who failed this test. So yeah, please continue, brother. For
yeah, can I make more comments before you continue for those?
Yes.
So you saw Sayyid Ali brought a authentic narration, which authentic, its chain is acceptable, which clearly contradicts the apparent meaning, if you want to say it's apparent, of the hadith that they're bringing. We could stop here and end the refutation right now and say that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when it comes to the Sunnah is not the narrations of the Prophet. The Sunnah is what you deduce from the narrations of the Prophet. The Sunnah is what the Prophet really said and really did, not as what is reported from him in a singular fashion. So there is a difference between Sunnah and Hadith. Yes, the Sunnah is found within the narrations, the Hadith. However, you have to deduce using the sciences of Islam. You have to deduce this information. You have to deduce the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. It's not just it's an authentic narration. It's automatically what the Prophet said. No, that's not how any scholar functions or works in our religion, whether Sunni or Shia. Go ahead, Firdaus.
Yes. With that mentioned, also there are two other these points that we do, two other criteria that we use in accepting narrations. And the first one, the very first one, is that which also Shadi mentioned, and that is that we match everything with Quran itself. If it contradicts Quran, it's thrown against the wall. even if it has the most authentic chain. So this is what we have learned from the Ahlul Bayt, from the family of the Prophet, that this is how you should accept narrations from us. Everything that we say, everything that comes to you from us should be in accordance with Quran. If it contradicts it, throw it against the wall. No problem in that. So the second point is that another criteria is that if something is accordance with Quran but contradicts other narrations, narrations which are more authentic or which have been narrated with more chains, as in this case in the races chapter, you see at least 7 narrations in that chapter. You see 7 narrations. The narrations they put were 3 narrations with broken chains, and I will talk about them in more detail. So we could also, if by any chance these narrations imply any kind of racism, we have no problem in throwing them against the wall. No problem in that. With this mentioning this, I will go directly to the sources that they have used and show the dishonesty of these guys, and to show you how they mispresented the position of our scholars and misinterpreted these things. So I try to just screen share and my screen. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is the source that they used from Allama al-Majlisi, which is a commentary of the book Al-Kafi, and they've used his authentication. Apparently, this is this book, volume 20 and page 55. If you see that the title of the chapter says "Man kariha munakiyatu min al-akrad was-Sudan wa ghayrihi." What they implied is that this narration includes all the blacks and all the Kurds, isn't it? They used this title and said this means that all this chapter is about not marrying or discouragement on marrying Kurds and blacks, all of them. Whereas the Arabic says min al-akradi was-Sudan. Min, these guys are Arabs. You know, min means from among the Kurds and the blacks, the Sudan. The first point. So second point is that they also mispresented the opinion of Allama al-Majlisi about the authentication of the chain. You know, this book is about only Allama al-Majlisi just authenticates and looks into the chains. It doesn't authenticate the content of the narrations most of the time. Just these authentications are just for the chains. Here you see, says the first hadith, what they said Allama al-Majlisi says this hadith is sahih. No, Allama al-Majlisi says sahihun al-zahir. Apparently it's sahih. Why he says that? We see in another book of his. This book is Malad al-Akhyar, which is a sharh commentary of another book by Sheikh Tusi, another of our Shia scholars. This Sheikh has narrated from Al-Kulayni that they have quoted. The same narration here, you see the guy in the chain here is Masadat ibn Sadaq. And about this guy, there's difference of opinion. And that's why you see number 28. At the bottom, he says, Za'if, the chain is weak. And he says, وَفِي بَعْضِ النُّسَخِ الْكَافِي مَسْأَلَةِ ابْنِ زِيَادٍ. In some of the manuscripts of the book Al-Kafi, the man in the chain is Mas'ad ibn Ziyad. In that case, it would be Sahih. If it is Mas'ad ibn Sadaq in this case, as you see, it would be weak. So this was the first mispresentation of the opinion of Allama al-Majlisi.
Comment for those about this?
Yes, please.
Continue. So there are 2 Mas'adas here. There's a Mas'ada, the companion of Jafar al-Sadiq, who is considered reliable, and then there is another one who with the same name, who was the companion of Al-Baqir, who was considered
A Sunni,
unreliable, or majhul, or unknown. So he's saying which one is it? It depends. If you say it's the first, it's authentic. If you say it's the second, it's not authentic.
Yeah.
So we don't know 100% for sure.
Yeah, there is an entire discussion about this with who this guy is, because the sub narrator from both those guys' books is the same guy, whose name is Arun ibn Muslim. So this is why there's a big discussion. So I just wanted to mention this kind of dishonesty from these guys. The first point, as about the meaning of al-mushawwah, the meaning of the zanj. They said zanj means all blacks, all Sudan, isn't it? They said zanj means all Sudan. The first one I mentioned from Al-Kulaini himself in a book, in the title of the chapter that Kulaini writes, he says min al-akradi wa Sudan, from among Akrad and the blacks. And the second point here, we have another scholar of ours, which is Faisal Kashani, who has collected the 4 major books of Shia into one big book, and he mentions in this volume 12, he mentions the same narration from Al-Kafi, and what he says about Zanj says, "Az-Zanju sinfun min al-Sudan, wahiduhum Zanji." Az-Zanj is a group of blacks, is a minority, is a group of the blacks, not all blacks. Wahiduhum Zanji, and one of those blacks is Zanji, not as they say. This has been mentioned by other scholars like Yusuf al-Bahrani and so on. I don't want to go into these things. So this was one point. Now we go into their scholars, what they say about Zanj. I think Kalam did a great job on refuting them on this point, that the blacks are all the Zanj are all blacks. So, but in addition to what he said, here we have a Muqaddamah of Ibn Khaldun. I found an English translation of this, and I will just here present that.
You need to screen share. You stop screen sharing. Bring the screen share back up if you can.
Okay. Sorry. This is the. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, it's fine. Fine.
Okay. Here we see that Ibn Khaldun says in this book at the bottom. Wait a minute. When he talks about the races of blacks, he says, "Oh, sorry." He says in this, at the bottom of the page, says the inhabitants of the first and second zones in the south are called the Abyssinians, the Zanj, and the Sudanese. And then in the next page, he says the name Zanj is restricted to those who live along the Indian Sea. So he differentiates between Abyssinians and the Sudanese and the Zanj, 3 groups he mentions here. There are other scholars who have mentioned more races. This is an older book from the 8th century, I think, from the Tarikh of Abil Fida. The book is called Al-Mukhtasar fi Akhbar al-Bashar. He mentions in this book, volume 1, he mentions the races of black who are from the sons of Ham ibn Nuh, as he mentions in this book, and he mentions many nations of blacks like Az-Zila and Nuba and Al-Baja and Al-Damadam, Al-Zanj. Here, among them, he mentions Al-Zanj. He says, I mean, Umamihim, from the black nations are the Zanj. وَهُمْ أَشَدُّ السُّودَانِ سَوَادًا, and they are the darkest among the black people. وَيُحَارِبُونَ رَاكِبِينَ الْبَقَرِ, and they are in fight with another group of them which ride cows, I think, something like that. وَيَعْبُدُونَ الْأَوْثَانَ, and they are idol worshippers, the Zanj, the people of Zanj. وَأُمْ أَهْلُ بَأْسٍ وَقَسَاوَةٍ, and they are the people of wars and fighting, and they are cruel. وَالنِّيلُ يَنْقَسِمُ فَوْقَ بِلَادِهِمْ in the Jabal al-Muqsim, and he says, and the river of Nile branches out from the top of their country, their land, near the mountain of Al-Muqsim. So he even mentions where they lived. The Zanj were not all blacks, as these guys are presenting, which is just
Liars.
ridiculous. Yeah,
Liars.
It's I have so many other quotes that I just don't want to waste people's time. Just these two, I think, were very clear for everyone. Another point here is that I will mention later on. Should I go to the sources of their Sunni sources that talk about these, that have the same kind of narrations and
yeah, please do. I think it's about time we uncover the reality of what their literature has said regarding specifically the black people, not the people of Zanj, but the black people in general. Please do go ahead.
Okay, I just go. You see my screen, right? Do you see my screen?
Yes, it's coming through fine.
Okay. Here we have the book of Fayd al-Ghadir, which is a commentary on the book of Suyuti, which is Jami' al-Saghir. And the scholar is Allama al-Manawi, one of their Shafi scholars, I think. So he, in volume 1 of this book, he mentions several of those narrations that talk about Zanj, people of Zanj, and blacks and so on. He says, after mentioning another narration that talks about Bilal and Luqman and another companion of another person who are black and were praised in this narration, but he says, فَإِنْ قُلْتَ هَذَا يُعَارِضُ خَبَرِ إِيَّاكُمْ الزَّنْجِ وَخَبَرِ اجْتَنِبُوا الزَّنْجِ. If you say that this narration in praise of Bilal and Luqman and so on, who were black, is in contradiction to those narrations which say keep away from the people of Zanj and keep away from the and so on, and people keep away from the blacks. Another wording which is more general, covering all blacks. Because they're a distorted creation, as they want to present. We just take their translation now and see what the outcome would be. He says, if you say that these contradict these narrations that are against blacks and against the people of Zanj and so on, and the narration which says وَخَبَرِ أَنَّمَا الْأَسْفَدُ لِبَطْنِهِ وَفَرْجِهِ, and the narration which says that blacks are black because of their stomach and because of their private parts, and which I will show what that means. That they have basically many narrations that state that blacks are the people of Zanj, and another wording blacks, all blacks, and another wording Abyssinians, that they have nothing to do when they are their stomachs are empty, they steal, and when their stomachs are full, they fornicate.
Did you hear that, Kalam? Did you hear that one, Kalam?
I will mention these narrations, these very interesting narrations, and these are in their books. So he and Manawi says, if you say these narrations contradict these, he says, قُلْتُ كَلَّا. He says, I would say never. لِأَنَّ الْأَسْفَدَ يَنْقَسِمْ إِلَى الزَّنْجِ وَحَبَشِ. He says, never. These narrations do not contradict, because al-aswad yanqasim ila zanji wal habashi, because the blacks are divided into Zanjis and Habashis. There are two groups. He divides them into two groups. He says, فَالْمَرْهُوبُ مِنْهُ الزَّنْجِ. The group of blacks whom should be fear, whom should be keep away from them and run away from them and do not engage with them, are the Zanji, وَالْمَرْهُوبُ فِيهِ al-Habashi. And the good ones, or the blacks that are that we should engage with, are the Abyssinians. And he says, and these guys, i.e. the Bilal and Luqman and so on, they were from the Abyssinians. They were not from the Zanji. Otherwise, they would also be in this category that they are not good and we should keep away from these people. So this was this statement of this scholar, but I will go into a second, please. Do you see my screen?
Not at the moment. Turn it back on.
Okay, wait a minute. Now, whenever my screen goes off, please tell me, because I don't see where.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Now it's fine.
Okay, this is a diagram that I made and put all those chains that they have, most of those chains at least. This is the narration. You see this, right? The narration, can you read this?
We can see it. We can see it.
Okay, the narration is that allegedly from the Prophet, saying that marry your equals and pick the best for your semen, and don't marry the Zanj, because they are a distorted creation in quotation marks, because they wanted this translation, right? So we just put that one. And you see how many chains we have here. The two top narrators are who? Aisha and Anas ibn Malik, right? We have down here from Aisha is her nephew Urwa ibn Zubair, who is a top narrator in Sahih Bukhari, Muslim, and in many major books, and he is a trustworthy scholar among them, and they praise him to the teeth. So, his son is Ishab ibn Urwa. He also praised in a major narrator, many narrations in Sahih Bukhari, Muslim that come from this guy. Down the line, you have how many people narrating from him? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 I found, right? What does this say? This says that this narration, at least up to Isham ibn Urwa, is no doubt, should be no doubt about it, is very strong. Why? Because we have 5 different people that have narrated the same thing, right? So, but some of them, to be honest, their scholars have, even they don't act upon their own rules. So some of their scholars, like Albani, that they try to mention, yeah, we have also these narrations, but Albani has weakened them. And the other day, one of their other guys in Twitter, he writes that Albani makes mistakes and we don't agree with him all the time. When it favors them, they pick anyone from among their scholars who authenticates or weakens a narration, and when it doesn't favor them, they just say, "Oh, he makes a mistake," right?
Scholars are not perfect.
Yeah, yeah. We see here the things that the first, for example, if I see that one of these narrations is from Abi Umayyah ibn Ya'la, right? This narration has been authenticated by their other scholars, and some of them I will mention here. Here, for example, we see Majma al-Zawaid. You see that, right? He is comments on the chains of narrators of many books, and mainly from the books of Tabarani. And here in volume 4, he says that about this particular narration, not about this one, about another one, but I will just to bring that one. Sorry, the one that was from Aisha. Okay, we have these 5 narrators. We have the sub-narrator, for example, if we see Muhammad ibn Maslam, Maslamat ibn Muhammad, for example, is weakened by Ibn Ma'in, but he has been authenticated by other scholars. Authenticated by other scholars, and the problem is that whenever they find they can attack the big guys, like here Shab ibn Urwa and Urwa ibn Zubair and so on, they attack these little guys, right, in the sub chains, even though they have five different people narrating the same thing from the guy. So what it proves is that this narration is almost certain from Hisham ibn Urwa. 5 different people. I will not bore you with going to detail who has authenticated each one of these guys and who has not, but I will show you one. This one from Aisha, I just ignore that completely, right? 5 chains. You can say this is at least the least that we can say about this is Hassan or a Hassan al-Ghari. Hassan with supporting evidences because it has many chains. The other narration, which is from Anas ibn Malik FCC, this has interestingly Al-Albani has weakened this narration as well. What he says is that this narration is weak because down this guy down from wait a minute, he says from Sufyan ibn Uyayna down the chain, these guys are unknown. He says all these guys are unknown. Let's see if these guys are unknown or unknown in their sources. I click just here and it brings me in one of their famous websites, which is islamweb.net. Very, very famous website, and in the Arab world. And they also do a good thing that if you click upon the chain, for example, if you see here, if you click on the chain, it brings up the status of the narration. What it does it say? The rutbah or the status of narration is trustworthy. Right? The first narrator that Albani says that are unknown. The second narrator, Rutbah, the status of narration, Thiqatun Imamun Hafidun, a trustworthy an Imam and Afil. The other narrator, the third one, Abduladim ibn Ibrahim, Saduqun Yukhti, a trustworthy person who made sometimes mistakes. Right? The fourth narrator, the Abdulmalik ibn Yahya, the status is what? Thiqatun. Narrator is what? Trustworthy. Albani says all these guys are unknown. We see their own website, one of their own websites, mentioning biography of all those narrators, and all of them are authentic, thiqa, trustworthy, or one of them is saduq, which makes the chain of narration according to their standards Hassan, at least Hassan, which is a good chain, an acceptable chain. And the more devastating thing is that the wording of this narration is تخيروا لنطفتكم واجتنبوا هذا السواد. Yani, which means pick and choose for your semen and keep away from these black guys, these black people. فإنه لون مشوه, for their color is mushawwa. Their color is what they said mushawwa is distorted, right? Here the narration says فَإِنَّهُ لَوْنٌ مُشَوَّهٌ. Their color is distorted according to this narration, which is reliable according by their standards, right? So this was the first group of these narrations that say the same thing, or even worse, as you see here, as the narration of Al-Kafi. Now, do they want to say that this is now Lawnun Mushawwa or Khalqun Mushawwa is distorted creation, or it has another meaning? And also, do they now say that this covers all blacks or just a Zenj? Because this narration apparently says at-sawad, all blacks, right? Which one is worse if you compare? Just keep this in mind. This was the first narration that I wanted to show you with all these chains. The second narration is even more interesting. Can you read that?
Yeah.
The second narration says, allegedly also from the Prophet, also Aisha is in this narration, interestingly. And she narrates that says there is no goodness in Abyssinians in this case, in this narration. This narration mentions what? The Abyssinians. They steal when they are hungry and fornicate when they are full. Right? This is the narration that they give. Now, is this a racist narration or not? And if you see, their scholars have connected this thing with the narration before that do not marry the Zanj because they are a distorted creation, and they say, yeah, this is because they used to fornicate idol all the time, and when they're full, and still when they were hungry, right? This is this makes it even more problematic. Now, as about the chains, I start with the chains according to my order from Ibn Abbas, for example. This is from Ibn Abbas. I mentioned this part of the chain, which is from Awsaja, Amr ibn Dinar, and so on, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, which was interestingly in the other narration, above narration as well. And from him, how many people? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, up to Sufyan ibn Uyayna, there is no doubt about the chain. You can say at least. Now, if we go to Majma' al-Zawaid, which I wanted to mention to show, volume 4, he here mentions from Ibn Abbas the exact same chain that I mentioned, that La khaira fi Habash, there is no goodness in the Abyssinians. When they their stomachs are empty, they steal, and when they are full, they fornicate. And he says that وَإِنَّ فِيهِمْ لَخِلْيَتَيْنِ and or خُلَّتَيْن حَسَنَتَيْن, and there are two good characteristics in them, which is one of them is إِطْعَامَ الطَّعَامِ, giving food to people, and وَبَعْث إِنَّ الْبَعْث. And in some narrations it says najda, and another thing which means sakhala, or generosity and bravery in the battles. So what does Al-Haythami, the author of the book, says? He says Ar-Rawa Tabarani wal-Bazar. Tabarani and Al-Bazar have narrated it, and its wording is that this and this, as I read it. And he says Rajal al-Bazar Siqat, and the narrators of Al-Bazar are trustworthy. But Awsaja al-Makki, that I showed you in the diagram, Awsaja al-Makki fi khilaf la yadur. About the Awsaja al-Makki, there is a small difference of opinion that does not harm the chain. And more than one scholar have authenticated him. So Al-Haythami makes this, the chain of this narrations, deems it what? Reliable, right? The next narration, at the bottom, I also wanted to show the second one, which was as I mentioned, he says in this wording, he says Al-Aswadu is a jar. The blacks, if they, the previous one was the Abyssinians. Here it makes it more general from Aisha. And Al-Aswad is a jar. The blacks, when they are their stomachs are empty, they steal. When they're full, they fornicate. And there and there are two good things in them. Samaha wa najda. Their good two good characteristics are generosity and also bravery in the battles. The author says Rawat Tabarani fal Awsat. Tabarani in his book Al Awsat has mentioned this. Wafi is Ibn Ishaq, who was in the chain. There's Ibn Ishaq, who was the famous author of the Sirah of Ibn Ishaq. وهو ثقة, he is trustworthy. ولكنه المدلس, he is مدلس. وعلي ibn Sayyid al-Razi, another narrator in the chain, who is Ali ibn Sayyid al-Razi, قال دار القطني ليس بذاك. Dar al-Qutni has said he is not that much strong. تفرد بأشياء, he has narrated some solitary narrations. وبقية رجال سيد, the rest of the narrators of this narration are the narrators of Sahih, i.e. either Sahih Bukhari or Muslim or both of them. But let's see if this guy Ali ibn Sayyid al-Razi is weak, as he mentions only the opinion of ad-Daraqutni, and see if what he says is correct. Now, if I go to the website that I showed you before, here we have the exact same narration that we are talking about, and this is the Ali ibn Sayyid al-Razi. He says, Darqutni says he is weak, right? He's not that good. But if we say the status of this guy in this website is what? Thiqatun, trustworthy. And if I want to go even more into what each scholar have said about him, you see 5, 6 scholars have deemed them, have praised them. Said, for example, Mr. Qasim says, "Thiqatun alamun bil hadith," a trustworthy, and he was knowledgeable about narrations. Another, Al-Dhahabi says, Al-Hafidh al-Rahal al-Jabbar, a Hafidh, a great scholar who was all the time traveling to learn narrations, and so on. And one of them, only one of them, is Daraqutni, which degrades his status and says it's not that strong and it's not trustworthy. And other scholars that have, he's, for example, Ibn Adi, one of the other famous scholars, says that this guy has been criticized maybe because he was in connection with the ruler, with the governor of the city that he lived in. That's why maybe some scholars have criticized him, and not in the defection is actually not in his narrations and so on, rather in his actions with the ruler or something like that. So we see that this narration is what is authentic. Also, it's not as weak that Al-Haythami that I showed you, the scan that I showed you, that I wanted to imply. And more interesting is that the same guy here, I say, here you see Ali ibn Sayyid ibn Bishr, right? We see that another guy, Muhammad ibn Dawud, has also narrated from the top narrator, the same narration. He doesn't mention that this is also narrated. He just implies as if there's only this narration for this. There's another guy, that Tabarani, in the same book, in another volume, and here the page number you see, that has narrated the same narration. So this was this much. Let's see. The third narration, the other narrations, I don't want to go into detail about every narration. You see, the narrations are pretty supportive of one another. At least 3 narrations, and the sub-chains are at least the things that I found are too many here. And everyone who wants to look up them, you see here, I've mentioned also the sources of the books, where these books are, where these things have been narrated in the books. So this was for this. Another narration, which is also similar to the previous one, is this one. What it says is, Zukira Sudan in the Nabi, allegedly again from the Prophet. He says, Da'uni min al-Sudan, فَإِنَّمَا الْأَسْوَدُ بِبَطْنِهِ وَفَرْجِهِ. Once blacks were mentioned in front of the Prophet. So he said, do not ask me about the blacks, because black is black for his stomach and his private parts. Exactly same narration as previous one, same content, but with another wording, new narrators, new chains. So let's see if these narrations are also authentic. At least we see here, at least here in this chain, we see how many sub-narrators? Up to this guy, this is strong, 3 sub-narrators. This one, Ayman, one singular narration, but a supportive factor, which makes this narration at least Hasan al-Ghayri according to their standards, which is Hasan, a good narration with a few supportive chains, which could be in themselves, which could be weak. Now, giving this, let's see how their scholars have authenticated these narrations, what they have said about this. We have this book, which is Al-Maqasid al-Hasana fi Bayan Kathira min al-Ahadith al-Mushtahara al-Alsina, which is a book about the famous narrations that is circulating among people, and he kind of tries to mention, tries to say, to see what narration is famous, what is not, what is authentic, what is not, and so on, what is reliable, what is not. In this book, he says that Sakhawi who was a Shafi scholar, he says, mentions the same narration that an al-aswad is a jasara or is a shabazana. The black, if his stomach is empty, he steals, and when he's full, he fornicates. He says about these narrations, mentions all those details, who has narrated it, and so on. The next page, he says, some of these chains of these narrations, we have several, each of these narrations have several chains. Some of these narrations are supporting each other. They strengthen each other. Bal sanad al-Bazzari hasanun. The chain of al-Bazzar is what? Is Hasan. Al-Haythami had said also similar thing as I previously mentioned, that the chain of Bazzar was at least Hasan or authentic or reliable. We can agree on that. And he also interestingly says one more thing, which is وَقَدْ اعْتَمَدَ هَذَا الْحَدِيث إِمَامُنَا الشَّافِعِي. He says, and verily indeed our Imam the Shafi'i, because he was a Shafi'i, has trusted this narration, has relied upon this narration. How? And then he mentions a narration, a story of in the book Manaqib of Bayhaqi, which is about the merits of their Imam Shafi. And here the story is that a person's black slave is missing, and he comes and looks for him, and then Shafi calls him and says, you are looking for your black slave? He says yes. He says, go to the prison, to the jail, you will find him there. And then after he goes to the jail, he finds him and comes back and says, one of the people who witnessed this asked him, how did you know this? Shafi then says, I remember this narration from the Prophet that when the blacks, their stomachs are empty, they steal. When they are full, they fornicate. He says, I then thought that it should be one of those two. So the guy should have looked in the jail, and I was right. So
for those, I don't want to cut you off. I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head with a final point, and that is that according to the literature, if there's a black brother missing, according to the tradition that they falsely attribute to the Prophet, you should go look in a prison, because according to the Prophet,
at least the Shafi had
this is Imam Shafi, right?
Imam Shafi, yes.
Yes, one of the imams of the school. Okay, bro, I didn't want to cut you short. I apologize because all the brothers have been waiting patiently. I just want brother Shadi to come on quickly. He might want to state some traditions. Brother Shadi, there? Been waiting patiently?
Yep.
Please go ahead, bro.
Okay. So we're going to go to the most authentic book for the Sunnis after the Quran. They say this is the most authentic book after the Quran. This is what Sunnis say. So what does their book say? The most authentic book after the Quran. Let's see. So let me bring it up.
Shadi, before you do, can you just touch on one point? And I noticed this, and we need to be a bit fair. The poetry which they brought up.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that too.
Okay, brilliant. Please go ahead.
So this is from Kitab al-Ahkam. This is narrated by Anas ibn Malik from the Prophet, page 162, chapter 93 in the book of Bukhari, the most authentic book after the Quran. This is what the Prophet is saying according to them. The Messenger of Allah said, you should listen to and obey your Imam, i.e. the Muslim ruler, even if he was an Ethiopian slave whose head looks like a raisin. This is an authentic narration in Bukhari. Okay. So you're telling me that the Prophet basically called Ethiopians raisin heads, and you guys want to come and make a video about racism?
I can't believe he said that. I can't believe that narration.
With not only that, with a narration that is differed upon in our book, some people don't even consider it authentic. I mean, honestly, let's look at the commentaries of this narration, because it gets even funnier. Al-Qastalani in his sharh of this of Bukhari, page 211, volume 10. He says, and I'm paraphrasing, and he drew similarity between the head of the Ethiopian and a raisin, and the heads of the Ethiopians are described as small, and this necessitates wretchedness and ugliness. This is one of their most famous scholars, and he's commentating on this narration. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about that?
Repeat that once more. What did he say? Repeat that once more.
Sorry. He said, Al-Qastalani in his commentary of Bukhari, this is the book we're quoting from, he's commentating on the narration I just mentioned. He says, and he drew similarity, meaning the Prophet drew similarity. And he drew similarity between the head of an Ethiopian and a raisin. And the heads of the Ethiopians are described as small. And this necessitates wretchedness and ugliness.
That's racism.
I'm paraphrasing, by the way. I don't want them to go, oh, he's mistranslating. He's not. Okay, if I'm mistranslating, then do yourself a favor, post where I mistranslate, and read the Arabic out, and show me where I made the mistake, because I am not mistranslating, like you guys accused me of doing last time. That's the only way they can debate. Oh, he's not translating it right. Okay, Habibi, don't worry. We're gonna get there. We go to another narration. This is narrated in Muslim, Kitab Muslim. Kitab Muslim for the non-Arabic, non-Muslim speakers, non-Arabic understanding speakers. Listen, Kitab Muslim is considered like their third Quran. This is basically their third Quran. The same way the Jews have the Talmud, they have this. Basically, Muslims have, traditions that basically commentate on the Quran. This is a common, from the Prophet himself, basically what we call a hadith, his words. So Abu Dhar, who is a companion of the Prophet, by the way, a person who we respect and a person who we don't believe, stated this. This is what they're stating. He says, the Prophet said, my beloved, the Prophet advised me to hear and obey, even if the leader is a slave with amputated limbs. Okay, that's not racist. Okay, let's look at the commentary, however. This is from An-Nawawi. Who is An-Nawawi? An-Nawawi, funny name, but he is one of the most respected, actually the most respected Shafi'i scholar, and he is the scholar which every single Sunni who follows the Shafi'i madhab has to follow him. He is the doorway to Shafi'i. He's the Mu'tamid scholar, and their Mu'tamid means relied upon. This is what he says. He says on his commentary, volume 9, page 67, the slave is known generally to be vile. Khasis. Khasis is like someone who's wretched, vile, someone who's insidious. Then what else does he say? And his blackness is another deficiency. There you go.
How is that not racist? How is that not racist?
We'll see. There's even more. Look, there's more jewels to be found. Look, Ahmed ibn Abi Sulman. And I'm going to explain who this person is in a second. He says, whoever says that the Prophet is black is to be killed. This is in his Shifa, page 765.
Qazi Ayaz.
Whoever says the Prophet is black is to be killed.
Just one point here, Shadi.
Yeah,
some may claim here, right, that here the blackness might refer to something else, okay? But bear in mind, they already have a chapter within Qazi Ayad's book in Al-Shifa, that's dedicated to those who falsely lie about the Prophet. So here, the blackness here is specifically related to the blackness in color.
Exactly.
Please continue the rest of the line.
Shifa is the book of Qadi Iyad, right? And then this is Ahmed ibn Abi Sulman is being quoted by Qadi Iyad, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
That's right.
And Shadi, you missed the most important line. What's the last line that says in the reference? What does it say?
He says, whoever says that the Prophet is black is to be killed. And I think he goes on in the book, he states that because the Prophet was known to be white or something like that. I think that's what you have on your side as well. However, let's look at what Al-Dhahabi said about this person. Okay? Who was Al-Dhahabi? Dhahabi is known to be one of the most respected scholars of biographies. What we say in Arabic, ilm al-rijal. Ilm al-rijal is the sciences of studying people's lives and basically finding out whether or not they're reliable people, whether or not we should listen to them, etc. What did he say about this person? He said he was a master in jurisprudence, law, a pioneer in the field, one of the giants of the Maliki school. He was a righteous sheikh, reliable, and he had a generous and noble personality. This is what your master of ilm al-rijal, the sciences of hadith, the sciences of biographies and stuff. This is what he said about Ahmad ibn Abi Sulman. So any of you guys are listening right now, okay? Academic, Liquid Sky, all you guys in chat, I'm talking to you guys. If you guys say the Prophet is black, according to the Maliki madhab, you're gonna have to be taken down on your knees and have your head cut off. This is what they're saying.
Yeah, because they consider it insulting, you know, and sad.
Bilal was black, but okay, whatever. Another thing.
Bilal was black.
Exactly. As-Suyuti. Who is As-Suyuti? As-Suyuti is one of the masters of hadith. He wrote in a book, and the name of the book is called The Superiority Between Whites, Blacks, and Tan People. I mean, page 27. What does he say? He says, I'm not going to quote him, but I'm going to talk about what he said. He mentions on page 23 about a particular scholar, wrote that he says basically dogs are better than some humans. That was the title of his book. Some dogs are better than some humans. So Suyuti responded to him. He said, if he considers some dogs to be better than some humans, then it isn't beyond him to consider blacks to be superior to whites. So it doesn't. So he's basically saying, well, he considers some blacks to be better than humans. So obviously, it's not surprising that he considers blacks to be superior to whites. I mean, this is your master of hadith sciences. What else do you want us to say?
And also tafsir, you know, he's tafsir.
Jalaluddin al-Suyuti is known for his tafsir, famous tafsir of the Quran. So that's pretty much it for me. I'm gonna leave you guys, Sayyid Ali or Reza, Reza. By the way, don't forget to mention what we told you to mention about a particular person. So
yeah, I think
I just wanted to share one another thing that is related to the same thing. Can I do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Very quick, bro.
Okay, I just share my screen, and here we have the narration is from book Al-Musannaf of Abdul Razak Sanani, who is a famous narrator in their books in say Muslim, Bukhari, and so on. He mentions in this book here narration 8565 from Abdul Razak, from Ma'mar, from Ibn Tawus, from his father, that أنه لا يأكل ذبيحة الزنجي. The slaughter from the hand of a Zanji is not allowed to be eaten, according to Tawus ibn Kaysan, who was a famous student of Ibn Abbas.
That's harsh.
Look what he says. He says, his son says, Ma'mar says to the son of Tawus, says, Lima, why? Ibn Tawus said, Kana Abi Yaqul. My father used to say, he mentions that he used to say that many times, وَهَلْ رَأَيْتَ فِي زَنْجِي خَيْرًا قَطْ. Have you ever seen any goodness in a Zanji? Ever?
Wow.
And the chain of this narrator is interesting, which is
How
are they gonna interpret Zanj now? Is it gonna be all black people or just the tribe of Zanj? Which one is it?
The chain of narrators, Abd Razak, Ma'mar ibn Tawus from his father. The same chain, if you see, it repeats itself in Bukhari many times. Here I show you volume 8, narration number what? Narration number 6612. Abd Razak, Ma'mar ibn Tawus from his father, from Ibn Abbas. You see that is the chain of narrators a Sahih or not? And what he says is that there is no goodness in the Zanjis. All the Zanjis, all of them black? All blacks are Zenji?
Wow.
That was the question.
You can't even eat from their hands.
Right. You can't even, it basically considers them impure, you know, even if they're Muslims.
Wow.
He considers them impure. And the interesting thing is that Taus is praised in their books so often, so much, that it's just amazing. They call him the peacock, which Taus means peacock of the paradise, they call him. You know?
Do you know what? For those, before we're going to pass on to Brother Razak, because I know he's been waiting anxiously. So has Brother Kalam as well, because we need to try to get much covered as possible now in the last maybe 10-15 minutes. Unlike their show, they spent most of the time pretty much talking and quoting one or two traditions. But as you can see, there's a lot for us to cover here to obviously expose the
I haven't even mentioned my 60% of other material.
I know. I think what we'll do a whole series on this on Bayt al-Ghadir, inshallah. But Brother Hassan, did you say something before I passed it to Firdaus? Because I wanted him to go over that the poem that they quoted as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I just was hoping, could Firdaus, brother, address the poem, please?
Shadi.
Basically,
yeah, Shadi.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Firdaus. I don't have it on me. I wrote the
okay.
of Suyuti only. I was
Okay. Basically, they quoted Sharif al-Murtaza that he had interpreted a poem which was from Sayyid Ismail al-Ihmiri, who was a poetry of the second century, I think. And he is called Sayyid, but he's not actually a Sayyid, not from the family of the Prophet. He is just called a Sayyid as a title. He was not a Sayyid, just his title was Sayyid Ismail al-Himyari. A poem who was first a Sunni guy, who later on he converted to the Kaysani sect, who was the sect attributed to son of Imam Ali alayhi salam, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, and later on he met Imam al-Sadiq and he became Shia, fell for Shia. Sharif al-Murtaza is basically interpreting his poem, and the poem is actually Sayyid Ismail al-Himyari. These two guys, they're not hujjah for us. They are not proof for us. If we say they were wrong, we haven't lost anything. We are not missing anything. I just wanted to mention the points that actually Sayyid Ismail al-Himyari is taking kind of arguing with the atmosphere that he was in, the time of the Bani Umayyad and the time of racism, the big racism that existed, and he is trying to use their rules in racism, that the sons of Sam, son of Nuh, and the Ham, son of Nuh, these were two different races, and he used that as a kind of to elevate the lineage of Imam Ali alayhi salam and the Prophet and so on. But he's using their kind of standards. The thing is that and Sharif al-Murtaza is just interpreting is kind of what he means with that poetry. It's nothing else. And these guys, these honest guys, you know, they have also kind of implied that Sharif al-Murtaza is here being racist, which is not the case. He explicitly mentions at the end that wait a minute, if I find the poem that I have
right at the end of the poem.
Yeah,
the part that missed out conveniently.
Yeah, they just didn't mention it.
Do you want to briefly mention what the last part of the poem was?
Wait a minute, if I find it in this volume 4 of his book, Rasail Sharif al-Murtaza, page 109, he says that Sayyid al-Himyari was not implying that the children of Ham, which are allegedly father of all the ancestor of all black races, he says that Sayyid al-Himyari is not attributing a blame or a deficiency in the children of Ham. He says لأن السيد فضل أمير المؤمنين علي عليه السلام على من لم يلدها, and he says that وما ألحق نقصا في الذين من بلدهم, and he doesn't attribute a deficiency in the children of
the ancestry of the Imam, the Holy Imam alayhi salam, was pure, unlike the ancestry of Umar, which inshallah on another day we will definitely.
Can I make a comment on that?
We're going to do a special series on the sorry Shadi, go ahead, bro.
So he's basically trying to say, the opponent in the other video, he's saying that, oh, look at the Shias, they're insulting Umar because his grandmother was black. No, we're not insulting Umar's. We weren't insulting Umar, or the Imams weren't insulting Umar because his grandmother was black.
He's not understood the hadith.
They're insulting Umar's lineage because his grandmother was known to be passed around the elites of Quraysh, and that's how his father was born. This is why he's called Ibn Suhaq. This is why he's called that.
That's really the elites, you know. Just everyone in the street.
I'm surprised they even quoted Umar's genealogy, which I was shocked that this hadith they've totally misconstrued.
Now they're going to complain. They're going to say, "Oh, look, the Shia are insulting Umar." Oh my God.
No, we're not insulting Umar. We will show you. We will show you from your books. We'll do a whole series on the genealogy of Umar, and then you can explain his genealogy to us, inshallah. Hassan Bahari, did you want to make a quick 1-minute point before going to Brother Raza? A quick recap in terms of what Firdaus said about that poem. So, obviously, ultimately, we're discussing his pure lineage, right? And how he didn't have any form of polytheism. We can't hear you, Hassan Bahari. You're mute. Hassan Bahari, you're mute.
Okay. Well, basically, what we're saying is, what the Sayyid there is actually praising is the fact that what we believe, this is a fact, we believe that the Prophet and Imam Ali alayhi salam, they were cousins. They came from a pure lineage in the sense there were no people that worshipped idols in that lineage, okay? Whereas the descendants of Ham, from Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, some of them ended up in worshipping idols. So basically what's happened is when the Sayyid in this is actually saying, unlike the people of Ham, he's not actually placing an attack on their lineage. He's not saying, oh, look, unlike these black people. No. He's actually saying, whereas the ancestry of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali alayhi salam, is a pure one. His ancestors never worshipped idols, even those which descended from Prophet Noah. They later deviated and ended up worshipping other deities. That's all it is.
Actually, this topic of the children descendants of Ham, it's a very interesting topic. I think we need to do another show on this.
Firdaus, just a quick point. Unlike some of the forefathers of some of these people who used to write poetries, some of these Abbasi descendants you have now, some of their ancestors used to write poetry against the Imams of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salam, mocking the color. So anyway, Brother Raza, you've been
wait a minute. I just have this poem that the Salafi forum uses. These opponents of us, this channel of that are presenting this stuff against us, they are also all regular visitors of this website, as I've noticed from their videos. There's this website which is called the ddsunna.net, and if you go there, let me share this with you. Just a minute. Sorry. Yeah. This is the ddsunna.net, and here some of these Salafis, these Salafis are mocking the Shia, the Shia through poetry, and he says among these poems are.
You need to screen share. We can't see your screen for some reason, or maybe are you screen sharing?
Yes, I'm just.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Must be okay.
Okay. Now he says that this poem is from Ibn al-Mu'taz. Who's Ibn al-Mu'taz? He is the grandson of their Khalifa al-Mutawakkil, who gave a great
Abbasi Khalifa.
Yes, Abbasi Khalifa.
Yeah.
A great boost to the scholars of Hadith like Ahmad ibn Hanbal and their group. He kind of resurrected their sect, this Mutawakkil, and this guy is Ibn al-Mu'taz is his grandson. And this guy was even Khalifa for one day and one night, but his brother or the Muqtadar, which was the Khalifa, after the guy previous to him, killed him. He didn't let him to rule more than one night. So he says in this narration, for example, in this poem, which I also found in his Divan, which is a book of poetry. Let me find this here. He mentions the color of Imam al-Rida and makes a mockery of it. He says,
wow.
In this part, he says, "Kanu bil-Rida shaghafu zamanan," and they were enamored, or they were fallen in love for a while with the Rida, with the Imam al-Rida.
Who's that mocking him? Who's that mocking him? The Abbasi Caliph.
Yes, the grandson of the Abbasi Caliph, Ibn al-Mu'tad. He died in the year 296.
Maybe that's why the grandchildren of the Abbasis today mock the Imams as well.
Yeah, like some black brothers.
Exactly.
Yes,
it's in their blood.
Same thing.
It's funny. I remember one of these Basi descendants who was calling a brother a monkey and a Negro on some of these forums. We've got screenshots of these conversations.
Called him a Negro, yeah?
Yeah, this is the Salafi forum. They use the same poem and against us. Let me read
And the monkey. He called him a Negro and a monkey.
Yeah. We've got.
Are we gonna say that? Aren't we gonna show that, or what?
No. I mean, if somebody denies that a brother, there was a Shia brother from Nigeria, I remember, and there was one of these Abbasi descendants.
Yeah,
the same Abbasi descendants, like his ancestors.
Yeah.
The Imams, they do the same thing with the Shias of today as well.
He mocked the Nigerian Shia.
The same thing.
He mocked the Nigerian Shia.
He mocked the Nigerian Shia. He called him a Negro and he called him a monkey as well.
Okay. Let me read this poem, right?
So should that guy be in the video making videos then?
We'll get to that. I mean, just go to one of their channels. I think what's it called, Anti-Majus. You see them mocking non-Arabs. They mock the way they speak.
Didn't one of them call us Pakis the other day? Didn't he call Zan Paki the other day?
Yeah. That's another good point.
Is that racism?
But anyway, let's continue. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, we'll get to that towards the end of the show. So, Raza, do you want to jump on? Brother Firdaus has made his point about the poetry.
Firdaus, did you want to finish off Firdaus, or you cool?
I think I should mention this poem because it's very
go on, Firdaus. Go on.
Okay. I like do you see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He says he talks about the Rawafid as you see at the beginning of the poem, and says that the Shia, the Rawafid, were enamored with al-Rida for quite a while. وَقَدْ نَفَخُوا بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ بُوقًا, and they had inflated his status among the people too much. وَقَالُوا أَنَّهُ رَبٌّ قَدِيرٌ, and he says that they said that this Rida is a great Lord. He's making a mockery of the Shia. فَكَمْ لَسِقَ السَّوَادُ بِهِ رُسُوقًا. He says how to translate this. He says basically that he was nothing but a black guy, just a black.
Wow.
He says.
Wow.
The next thing he says, أَيَتْرُكُ لَوْنَهُ لَوْ ضَوْعَ فِيهِ. Do you ignore his color, which has no brightness? وَيَكْسُو الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ بَرِيقًا. And you claim and you say that his color that had no brightness, no light, and that his color allegedly covers the sun and the moon, because the Shia, of course, we call one of the titles of Imam al-Rida was Shamsu Shumus, the son of the suns, right?
Wow.
The shining sun. And he makes a mockery of this and says he was just a black guy. How could he make with his color
Allahu Akbar,
the moon and the sun bright?
Wow, racism from the horse's own mouth.
Yeah, this is the Salafi forum. These guys use this and mention this in their shows. I noticed, Wow. And we showing this from their
they mock the Imams, basically. They mock the Prophet's family.
Yeah, for blackness, just for blackness, nothing else. Imam al-Rida says it black.
We'll get to the main ending, the sword right at the end, right? So Razak, you might as well come in now, inshallah.
Okay. So
I can screen share for you. So if there's anything you want to,
yes. I think we need to
have a recap.
yeah, like a little. Obviously, we've gone through a couple of things now. Quick thing. Can you not hear? If I play something, can you not hear it or not?
Should be able to try.
Can you not hear that? Could you not hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. 1 minute.
Well, we meet now a man who invented his. Tonight, we are going to witness a
play that. I want to hear that. I want to hear this.
Hey, Kalam, where are you, man?
professional wrestling for the heavyweight championship of the world.
Kalam, come back, man. We're about to raise this. We're about to raise this up.
Are you ready?
Come, let's rumble now. Let's rumble.
Come on.
No, man. You gotta wait for it. You gotta wait for the drop, man. Wait for the drop.
From the capital city of the United States of America,
10 seconds.
Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
This is it now. This is
Yeah.
The main event.
the main event. The main event's coming up now.
The main event.
This is not Kalam. This is not 1 or 2 references, bruv. This is a whole at least 2 hours constant referencing, bro. Do you get me? That's how it goes down.
Yeah.
All right. You've been listening, Kalam. You've been listening. You've been following. Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's get down to this quickly. Yeah.
Hold on. Hey, yo, Sunni defense team, I beg you, drop a little comment.
Are they breathing?
Hey. Listen. You know what you call janazah? This is what you call. Let's read the funeral prayer. Everyone read the funeral prayer together. I'm gonna read it the Sunni way. I'm not gonna even read it the Shia way. I'm gonna read it the Sunni way. All right, cool. So, first of all, the brother, the quick hadith that they quoted. I want to just talk about authentication, and I'm gonna move on to my stuff. The hadith that says, "Leave the Prophet." They claim the Prophet says, which is obviously not. It's not true. Leave me away from black people, as they are also bad or black in terms of their stomach and private parts. That's the hadith. Watch the grading. Ajuluni said about the hadith. These hadiths strengthen one another, and the sanad of Musnad al-Bazar is Hasan. The source, Kashful Khifa, Volume 1, page 256, Hadith 693. Authentication number 1. Authentication number 2, Sheikh Muhammad Hijazi Sherani, the teacher of Sheikh Ali Azizi. He says about in his Al-Siraj Al-Munir, Volume 3, page 155, the hadith is Hasan. Second grading. Third grading, Al-Sayuti, Imam Jalaluddin Sayuti, said about the hadith, leave me away from black people, as they are also bad in terms of their stomach and private parts. He said Hasan. What's the source? Al-Jami Al-Saghir, Hadith 4226. 3 authentications for that hadith. That's that finished. Let's now move forward. So we've dealt with the authentication of that, and we're fine with that now, yeah? All right, cool. Now, did I give you 3 or 4 there? I gave you 3 there.
Many as you want. You can get as many as you want.
Yeah. All right, cool. That's fine. That's that done. Cool. Now, where am I going to? All right.
Cool. Listen, because some may argue, well, hold on a second. You know, these might be weak or whatever. Let's get down to the crunch. Let's get down to the crunch. Let's show the real problem. Let's
get down to the real problem now. We want to get down to the real problem. So first of all, let's now let me now screen share for you lot.
Okay, I'm gonna screen share. I'm gonna screen share for you, Rizal.
Oh, you're gonna screen share for me. Oh yeah, sorry. Habibi, 1 minute.
Can you see my screen? What can you see?
Cool. Oh yeah, all right, cool. So Kalam, you can see Sayyid Ali's screen. So on the video, will Sayyid Ali's screen show now? Cool. So the Prophet, first of all, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever possesses in his heart nationalism, even to the extent of a mustard seed, God will raise him on the day of the resurrection with the Bedouins of the Jahiliyyah, pre-Islamic era Bedouins. Agreed upon, Mujma alayh Shia Sunni. We don't disagree. Now, the reason why I stressed that hadith in the beginning is this, yeah? There's one thing, my viewers, quoting hadiths, like I said, this is polemics. They tried to quote hadith from our works. Like you said, we can either reinterpret them, we're very easy to reinterpret them, or we can just throw it against the wall because they go against clear mutawatir narrations that clearly say racism is not allowed in Islam, and we have the practice of the imams who themselves were from black mothers. So amal, practice, overdoes theory. What's the principle? Practice is stronger than theory, because if someone's acting upon something, it's like the Maliki principle. The Maliki, like the Maliki principle says, they take the amal of al-Madina over hadith. No matter what hadith you bring, you used to bring to Imam Malik used to say, I don't need your hadith, because the whole of people of Medina act different to you. In the same way, when you've got the practice of the imams, you don't need hadith. You understand that principle? Okay. Now, the Prophet is free from all of these things. These are all polemics. Whether you quote from our books or listen, this is not, I'm not going to use no cheap shots to show you, leave Sunnism because there's hadiths of racism in your books. I'm not interested in that. I'm not here for that nonsense. But what I am here to do is tell you your hypocrisy. If you're going to quote from our sources, don't throw stones when your own house is made out of glass. Because the thing is, at least in our principle, we can say we can throw the hadith away. We can reinterpret. You've got your scholars grading it sahih, and we're going to go into what your actual scholars say. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the practice of your second Khalif Umar. I'm not going to talk about the Prophet. I'm not going to talk about the Prophet. The Prophet's free from all this. But you know who's not free from it? Because right now, I'm not quoting polemical. I'm not being biased. I want anyone to go check this.
We want to compare our imams with your imams. Simple.
Let's talk about our imams and let's talk about your imams. So your imam is Umar. He's your second caliph for you lot. I want to see how he rolled his policies in his lifestyle. I want to see how he acted and interacted with the non-Arabs. Sayyid Ali, play this thing. Let's go down. First source, Ibn Hazm. It is narrated by Umar. When Umar became caliph, he said, there is no ownership on Arabs. Meaning, Arabs can be slaves.
Can't be. That's
a T there. So basically, there is no ownership on Arabs. You cannot own a Arab. You cannot own as a slave an Arab. Okay, that was Umar's opinion. No problem. Say it, go down. Now, so therefore, normally when you have slaves, Umar said you can't have Arab as slaves. Okay, you can't have Arabs as slaves. No problem. That was Arabic there. Like I said, all of these shots, all of these screenshots will be given to Kalam with the links there. If anyone wants to do fact checking, including Kalam, feel free. Amir Yamani, he says in his Sabul al-Islam, the commentary on Balugh al-Maram, he says Ahmad bin Hanbal said that I don't take the ruling of Umar that goes that Arabs can't have ownership over them, that they can't be slaves, as it goes contrary to Rasulullah, the Messenger of Allah. Well, as the Messenger of Allah used to enslave Arabs, as mentioned in other hadith, and likewise both Abu Bakr and Ali, may Allah be pleased with both of them, enslaved Banu Najiyah. So meaning, Ahmad bin Hanbal is deducing law from that ruling of Umar. He's deducing that what Umar said, I reject. Because the Prophet, Abu Bakr and Ali, both made Arab slaves if they had to do it. Okay,
because it was racism, yeah.
Yeah. Let's go.
Did you want to see a scan? Or we can show the scans afterwards.
It's all there. It's all there. If anyone wants to see the scans, it's there. Cool. Allama Shibli Nomani, who's a prominent scholar, who wrote a whole biography of the second caliph. Arabs can't be slave heading. No one amongst Arabs can be a slave. Although a lot of scholars have not accepted this principle of Arabs can't be a slave. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, again, says that I don't accept Umar's opinion that Arabs can't be slaves. This is telling you that Umar's opinion was ma'ruf, it was known. However, this is not a point of discussion here. Merely it is be told that this was Hazrat Umar's judgment on Arabs. He used to consider book Al-Faruq, page 295, Urdu edition. So what he's trying to say is Umar's opinion was known that you couldn't have Arabs as slaves. You could have non-Arabs though. You can't have Arabs. Why? Why can't you have Arabs though? What's the reason for that? I'll leave the interpretation to whoever wants to try to defend it. Imam Abdul Razak al-Sanani, teacher of Bukhari. Kalam, who is it? Imam Abdul Razak al-Sanani, teacher of Bukhari. Not a little guy, big guy. Narrated
teacher of Ahmad ibn Hanbal
even exactly, even the teacher of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, exactly. Narrated Abdul Razak from Mu'ammar, who narrated from Zuhri, who said Umar ibn Khattab didn't allow anyone of the non-Arabs to enter Medina. That he said anyone from the non-Arabs cannot enter Medina. Okay, so it's not about
That's
religion.
interesting. That's interesting, Raza, because some of the people on that channel, they're non-Arabs. So all this sort of defense that they present of the caliph If they're around, he wouldn't even allow them in the city of Medina.
I wouldn't be allowed out, and they would be standing outside with me, debating me outside Medina.
Exactly.
Bro, you're being unfair. Umar was just worried about them. He didn't want them to get beat up by the racist people living in Medina, bro.
Oh, what an amazing interpretation, Shadi. Thank you for that interpretation. Amazing. Okay, so discriminatory practices against.
By the way, he also kicked out good-looking people, but that's for another show as well.
Yeah, Kalam, by the way, he kicked out good-looking people as well. I've got evidences for that. I've got evidences that he kicked out a good-looking guy. But anyway, we'll deal with that later.
Sorry, Kalam, you wouldn't be allowed in then.
Wait, Kalam. No, he's not. He can't be in anyway. He's not Arab. You can't.
No, you have to kill him. You have to kill him because whoever says the prophet's black, you have to kill him.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Kalam, you lose on 2 counts, 3 counts.
He
was only joking, bro. I was only joking. For God's sake, I was only joking.
Ibn Tayfur says, Ma'mun said that Umar said, whoever has a Nabati, and which in translated as a tribe in the desert between Iraq and Jordan, as his neighbor, and he needs his wealth, then he can sell his Nabati. Okay, hold on. Brothers that are Arab speaking understand. Nabati. Give some explanation for Nabati.
For those?
Anything about Nabati?
I think Shadi can
Nabati, I think the Nabatiya people are those black people that were between, I think, east of Egypt, I believe, or they were southeast of Egypt. So those people over there.
Okay.
Basically, black people from near Egypt, from east or south Egypt.
Cool. So Umar's basically saying is, if you ever need money, just sell your black neighbor.
Astaghfirullah.
I need money today. Let me just.
I think this is a good one. This applies to a lot of the.
Now this one is for Speaker's Corner exclusive. This one is for Speaker's Corner exclusive, and for people who are obsessed with Arabic. Remember
you see whose sunnah they're following now.
Remember the 3 conditions? Here's the 3 conditions: non-Arabic language discarded and looked down upon. Let's go. Let's move it. Run the thing. Imam Bayhaqi in his Sunan al-Kubra. Imam Bayhaqi in his Sunan al-Kubra. Umar said, don't learn the non-Arab gibberish language. Narration, volume 9, page 392, narration 188861. There's a screen, there's the copies there of the actual Arabic. Umar said, don't learn the non-Arab gibberish language.
This is a fatwa site as well, by the way. There's a fatwa site there.
Don't learn it. Don't learn the language.
Don't learn English.
Gibberish language. Let's move forward. Imam al-Qahtani, Ibn Rushd, has explained opinions quoted by Malik and Umar with respect to disliking of learning and giving value to non-Arab languages. I understand the Arabic language has a superiority within our religion. We don't deny that. I'm not going to try and play that game and say it doesn't hold special weight. It does. But to say that other languages are disliked to learn, where'd you get that from? Where's that from? In our narrations, we have the imams. In our narrations, we have imams who speak over 70 languages. Let's move forward.
There are narrations that even they spoken with the Africans, the black slaves, with their own language.
The language of
they thought they're from the same tribe.
This one's important. Now, this one's important because you know what? Someone can say about each one, yeah, I'm not sure. Medina meant this, Medina. Get out of this one, please. Imam al-Jahiz. Is it no Jahiz or Jahiz? Jahiz.
Jahiz, I believe.
Umar used to. Jahiz, okay, Jahiz. Umar used to give priority to wives of the Prophet that were Qurayshi versus non-Qurayshi wives. He used to give more to Arab than Mawali. Mawali means non-Arabs. And would say, marry to your equivalent. Meaning an Arab marries an Arab because they're equivalent. And he was really strict in this matter of marriage. Meaning an Arab woman, he wasn't talking about men, by the way. Arab woman had to marry an Arab man. And he was really strict in this matter, by the way.
Some of these guys who married to who are not from Arab background, who are married to Arab wives, according to had they been around during the time of Umar, he would have.
That marriage won't happen, brothers. I'm sorry, innit? Umar dismissed it. Let's move now. Let's go down. The source of that was what? The source of that was what? Go up. The source of that was Al-Uthmaniyah, page 291. 211. Yeah. And it might be for this reason that Abu Hanifa, Amr bin Hanbal, Amr bin Hanbal, and Sufyan al-Thawri and other Sunni Imams believe that marriage between Arab and Mawali's freed slaves is not allowed. So that's an important part where a lot of their scholars now, because the thing is, I've showed you Umar, then I've showed you what the scholars have taken from it. The scholars are taking from it that even now, so that's fine. Look, I'm not saying Sunnis follow this, but look, it's in your literature. It's there, and your scholars are endorsing it.
Your biggest imams prohibit the marriage of a well, according to Umar earlier, he prohibited the marriage of an Arab woman with a non-Arab. But here you can see something interesting. Now it starts getting a bit interesting. Look what it says here. So
Abu Hanifa has and his companions said that a Qurayshi woman should say, let me move it down. Abu Hanifa and his companions said that a Qurayshi woman should only marry a Qurayshi man, and an Arab woman should only marry an Arab man.
wow.
Forget
blacks.
No, say it.
What about this then?
That reference, Al-Bidayat al-Mujtahid, is that the famous book by Ibn Rushd?
Yeah, I believe so. Is it?
Firdaus or thing. Is that the famous book by Ibn Rushd?
I'm sure it is.
Your brothers are sleeping.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
Rushd, I think. Rushd with a D.
Yes.
He had a book. Yeah. He's the famous Maliki scholar. Ash'ari.
Famous Maliki, yeah, that's what I'm saying. These aren't little. My point was that these aren't little books. Ibn Rushd is a big guy. He's not a small guy. So when he says it, he holds weight. Let's go down. Let's carry on.
Okay, is that it? I think that might be it, Said.
Okay, now you stay. Let me just quote 1-2 things, yeah?
Okay, and before you do, I just want Hassan Bahari to cover a quick recap on the points we just reiterated as well. Stop screen sharing.
Okay, so far, can you hear me, brothers? Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, so far, in terms of, obviously, we in the early portion, we addressed the narrations which were used against us. Then, obviously, we've had Brother Firdaus and Brother Shadi went through some of their narrations as well. And essentially, not only have so far, if we are to believe their books, the way they're presented, they are presenting black people as thieving sex maniacs. If that's how you want to present black people, if you're trying to present yourself as not racist, look at your materials.
Yeah.
And not just that, what Brother Raz has shown us is we've got Arab supremacy, Arab nationalism. So is that not racism? Racism is where you believe yourself as superior to other races, like the Ku Klux Klan do. Look at your second caliph.
So not just the issue black people here, but you can include other ethnicities.
Oh, absolutely, brother. That's what I'm saying to you, Sayyid Ali. What I'm saying here is this is straight up nationalism. You get white supremacy. This is Arab supremacy. We are better than you guys. You can't marry our women. You're so dirty you can't even come into our city. What do you think about that? Is that not racism? Don't carry on, Raza.
Cool. Okay, cool. Now just to recap, yeah. So number one, because the thing is, these points have to stick in your head. I'm going to summarize quickly. Number one, Umar said that an Arab you cannot have an Arab as a slave. Number one, yeah, number one, and that's by Ibn Hazm in his Al-Muhalla and Ibn Shayba in his Musannaf. Number two was Amir Yamani quoting Amr ibn Hanbal saying that I don't agree with Umar's ruling, meaning Amr ibn Hanbal is basically he's giving confirmation to Umar and saying this is known that Umar said this, but I don't agree with Umar. I agree with the Prophet, Abu Bakr and Ali. That's number two. And number three, Allama Shibli Nomani in his book Al-Faruq, where he says this was known about Umar's opinion, that he said Arabs can't be slaves. Number four, Abdul Razak Sanani in his Musannaf, he says that Umar said that non-Arabs cannot enter Medina. A non-Arab cannot enter Medina. Okay. Then you have the book of Ibn Tayfur in his Kitab al-Baghdad, where he says that if you need money, just sell your neighbor if he's a Nabati. Just sell him. Okay. Number four about the language, Sunan al-Kubra.
So basically, sorry Raza, so basically if I fall on hard times, I can just find a black neighbor and just sell him.
Nabati. Wherever their defense of Nabati is, they can give it. I don't want them to give me this, oh, I'm trying to misquote. No problem. I don't want them to give me, I've misquoted. I don't play like that. Whatever it is, you lot deal with it and give me the answer. Okay, yeah. Next one.
We'll do a whole show in each section.
No problem.
No problem.
Non-Arab languages being frowned upon. Urdu, Punjabi, all of Swahili, everything's frowned upon now. Don't learn non-Arab languages. Sunan al-Kubra in his Bayhaqi. And by the way, Ibn Kathir in his Ibn Kathir says about that sanad, he says Sahih. In Musnad al-Faruq, volume 2, page 494, Ibn Kathir says that sanad is Sahih from Sunan al-Kubra. Okay. Ibn Rushd, Qatani says Ibn Rushd said our master Malik and Umar said, disliking of learning the language. And then the last one, which was very important, from Ibn Rushd, Sufyan Thawri, Ahmad bin Hanbal said the marriage of an Arab woman with a non-Arab shouldn't take place. And Abu Hanifa said a Qurayshi woman should only marry a Qurayshi man, and an Arab woman should only marry an Arab man.
Okay, so I'm gonna finish.
By the way, this is important. This is not about sanads. If you want to play the sanad game, I can prove it sahih, and I have been majority of them anyway. This is what you call mutawatir bin ma'nawi. Meaning,
and practice.
Is about Umar. I don't have to bring you hadith on the subject. You know why? Because it's by meaning. Everyone knows this was Umar's opinion. Like it was famous about Umar's opinion. You couldn't narrate hadith. Everyone knew that was his opinion. You can bring me hadith and you can weaken the chains. But when something's mutawatir, weakening a chain doesn't help because it's known by mutawatir fil mana. So Umar's opinion.
And your scholars, and say it. These scholars have even given legal rulings on it.
So if the scholars have endorsed his view because it's so known, the scholars have done tasdeeq. It's what you call istinbat. The scholars have used his ruling and then made a ruling out of it. So they verified what he said.
Yeah. So say it just on a quick note now, right? So I'm gonna give me a second. Sorry. So now we've got Umar's clear opinion when it comes to a general Arab, his general rule. So now, since the topic is related to the issue of racism, and great emphasis was shown on the subject of marriage as well, and we quite clearly proved that many of the imams in practice as well, many of the imams from the Ahlul Bayt, they did marry women from black tribes. Okay, there's no doubting that. These are historical facts, and our opponents have mocked the imams through their poetry in the way that they describe the imams. Hassan Bahari, I think your microphone's on.
Oh,
can you just mute for a second?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So now coming back to the final, you could say the final knockout blow on the subject is in the issue of marriage. So I'm going to share a screen right now and just go over just few rulings from some of the biggest Sunni scholars. As brother Firdaus mentioned, he mentioned Shafi, and Shafi using the hadith of the Prophet that mocks black people in order to find out where black people were. That was brother Firdaus. Brother Shadi, he mentioned the fact that the Abbasid Khalifas, they used to write poetry mocking the Imam's blessed face, comparing him to a slave, etc., etc. Coming back to what they say in terms of the issue of marriage now. So this is important now. We've quoted big scholars. We've quoted Shafi. We've quoted famous Abbasi Khalifas. The opinion of Umar, Ahmed ibn Hanbal, Imam Tori. They all had these Thuhri. They all had these views in terms of the issue of marriage, for example. Generally, as a general principle, that in Islam, for example, we have something called kuv. Kuv means compatibility. So in Islam, kuf. In marriage, what we do is we try to find somebody of equal nature. If somebody's not equal to you, that marriage can become problematic. And amongst the criteria of compatibility is, for us, as far as the followers of the Ahlul Bayt are concerned, is somebody with good belief. Yeah, somebody must have good iman, strong faith. This is what is. We don't look at person's genealogy, where they're from, what country they're from, how much wealth they have, etc., etc. So now we're going to come back to what their scholars have said. So these are the big scholars. So far, we've quoted big names. This is in the famous book Fatwa al-Alamgiri, also known as Fatwa al-Hindiya.
Famous. This is a
very famous
continent.
Very famous book.
You don't become you until you read this.
Yeah, it's a famous book written during the Mughal times, I believe, during the time of Aurangzeb, and it was what they did was they got, I think, 200-300 Hanafi jurists together to create this book. It was like it's a big topic for another time, but you can read up on the book. From this book, it says the Arabs are equivalent to one another. The Ansar, helpers, and the Muhajirin are equivalent in it too, as mentioned in Fatwa al-Ghazi Khan, another famous Hanafi book. Generally speaking, this narration here, it quite explicitly states that the Molai, the free slaves that are non-Arabs, are not equivalent to the Arabs. Rather, these free slaves are equivalent to another mention. Okay, so generally speaking, they have a principle here that an Arab person, be it a male or female, are not allowed to marry out of the Arab, the Arab system, that in terms of their lineage, etc. Okay, here's another one. Ahmed ibn Naqib al-Shafi, he says, kafar, suitability in marriage, is in the lineage, ancestry of the man, and in religiousness, and his being a free man, not a slave, and in his profession, and his being free of defects that can cause the invalidation of the marriage. Then he goes, more importantly, a ajami, a non-Arab, is not suitable for an Arab woman.
Oh,
a non-Arab is not suitable for an Arab woman.
And a non-Qurayshi.
Okay, sorry. When you get a chance, you can read the whole thing. It's quite big. There's the reference there. I just want to quote them really quickly and show you the scan.
No, say this part. This is quite important, man.
Now let me just go through the main parts, because I've actually got quite a bit to go through, and we've kind of. I just want to read some quick points on these ones. So the scans are all there. When you get a chance, you can always verify them. You can pause the screen.
I want you to all this to Kalam. Kalam's fact checker.
Ibn Najim al-Hanafi, he says the obvious reports indicate that an Ajami, a non-Arab, is not compatible to an Arab in marriage in absolute terms. Yeah. So let's have a look. And then in the footnote, Ibn Abdin al-Dimishqi in his footnote.
He's the big one. Let me see what he says.
He says the correct opinion is that the Arab and non-Arab are not equivalent in marriage.
And this is the right madhab.
And this is the right opinion, especially, and then he continues, okay?
And he's an Ottoman scholar.
Just want to mention that this book, Al-Bahr Al-Ra'iq, is two books contained in one. It's got Ibn Abdin al-Dimishqi's commentary alongside the passage. So I'll bring up the scan really quickly, and you could see the books there. By all means, you can always go back and have a look.
When you finish it, I just want to say one thing on Kuf after you finish this.
Sure. Ibn Khuzaymah says, if marriage... Okay, so coming back to the main point, he says, there are different opinions narrated from Ahmad ibn Hanbal about the condition of equivalence and necessary stipulation for marriage. It's narrated from him that the equivalence is necessary condition, and further said that if free slaves marries an Arab woman, then they must be separated. And this is the opinion of Sufyan Thawri too. So if somebody is even married slaves to an Arab woman, she must be divorced. And this is the opinion of Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And again, narration. Just want to bring up one or two more. I've actually got quite a few. I can literally sit here all day just showing the statement of all the scholars that say a non-Arab woman, a non-Arab man is not permitted to marry an Arab woman. Another one. Again, therefore, a non-Arab is not equivalent to an Arab. And these are all related to the issues of, and Feroz Abadi al-Shirazi, I believe he was a Shafi scholar, and this was his legal ruling. That's his book. I'm just going to read one more for you guys. Just bear with me. There's a reference there. Alama Shamsuddin Shirbani, and he says, okay, again, sorry, bear with me. As for non-Arab Ajami, whose father is an Ajami, although his mum may be an Arab, is not equivalent to an Arab woman whose father is an Arab, although her mum might be a non-Arab. Do you hear that? Did you see that?
Now do you understand why there's so much Arab supremacy in the park?
This is a serious matter. There's not one narration. I mean, yeah, there's not one narration.
They made from Islam a racist religion. You know that Islam came to take these things out, but they brought them.
They're still continuing the Jahiliyyah. Yeah.
All right. Let's say that. If you finished it, can I quickly quote one thing?
Yeah, go for it. I'm done.
Let me conclude. I know it's been a little while. Okay, cool. Screen share this quickly. Boom. Screen share that. Yeah. We good? You lot watching? Now, how big is that, you lot? How big is that? Do you want me to increase the thing on that? Is that big enough or no?
Give him a little bit more size.
Yeah,
oh, shit.
More size.
More size, yeah. How do you do on iPad? How do you do it on a 1 minute?
Two finger swipe. Two finger swipe.
What, on a Mac? On a Mac?
Yeah. Put your first finger and thumb together and extend outwardly.
Hold on, wait. Oh, this is what. Hold on, wait. There you go. Got it like that. Innit? You got it like that. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Where are we? Is that thing enough or big? Or is that cool enough?
Yeah. You're good to go.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So. Okay. So Umar made a decision that again, this is a book. I'm going to give you the reference for it as well. Umar made a decision that a non-Arab cannot inherit from an Arab unless that heir was born in Arabia. Again, the Sunni law going back to early times for most part does not allow a non-Arab man to marry an Arab woman, nor is a non-Qurayshi or a non-Hashmi man allowed to marry a Qurayshi or Hashmi or woman, respectively. According to Shafi law, a slave, even a freed one, may not marry a free woman. So a slave cannot marry a free woman. That reference again, Al-Jazari, Al-Fiqh ala Madhab al-Arba, where he talks about the four schools, famous Sunni Imam. So she can't. This is in spite of the Prophet saying there is no superiority for an Arab or a non-Arab, or a non-Arab for an Arab, for a white, or so clearly. Now compare this quickly, Kalam, to the Shia fiqh in terms of, because like I said, there's practicality and then there's hadith. I'm showing you the practical system now. What their scholars have written. The Shia Sharia clearly states it is allowed to marry a free woman to a slave, an Arab woman to a non-Arab, a Hashmi woman to a Hashmi, to a non-Hashmi, and vice versa. Likewise, it is allowed to marry women of learned or wealthy families to men of little learning or wealth or of undignified professions. Meaning, no matter who the woman is, she is allowed to marry the lowest of men. He can be a slave. He can be someone who's not rich. And of course, color doesn't even play a part, because it doesn't matter if you're non-Arab or Arab. So 37, Al-Muhaqqiq al-Hilli, who's one of our big fuqaha in his Fatawa, Sharia al-Islam, and Sayyid Muhsin al-Hakim in his...
It's available in English as well. I've got that book at home.
And Sayyid Muhsin al-Hakim in his Minhaj al-Salihin, volume 2, page 279, Muhaqqiq al-Hilli, volume 5, page 300.
And they're crying about the Zanj tribe.
Yeah, in fact, our Imams did that. Imam Sajjad, for example, the Umayyad Khalif, they were criticizing him because he married some other tribes, you know.
One thing. In the matter of distribution of war booty, the Prophet established a system of equality. Abu Bakr continued that system, but Umar changed it. He fixed annual stipends. I always have trouble basically giving the money.
Stipends
for various people, clans and tribes. Abbas, the Prophet's uncle, was allotted 12,000 or 25,000 dinar. Aisha, 12,000. Other wives of the Prophet, 10,000. The participants of Badr, 4,000. This amount gradually decreased to 2 dinars per year. The system corrupted the Muslim community. He basically started doing favoritism. The Arab will get this. You're related to the Prophet like this. You're a Qurayshi. You're the wife. It was all based on exactly what the Prophet came to destroy, by the way. Are you with me? Again, the reference for that, Tariq al-Tabari. Kalam, I know you got that book. It's in Tabari's Tariq, by the way. Volume 5, page 2411. Yeah? And there, we'll leave it at that.
Hassan Bahari, do you want to have a final quick note before we...
And Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he destroyed the system when he came to power, you know. He gave every slave and the top Qurayshi guys the same amount of treasury.
That's why we'll do a show, separate show. Hassan Bahari, quick note.
Thank you very much.
We've gone way over.
I think in conclusion, really, I think we've set our position very clearly. Unfortunately, I think that these individuals who started this, they've opened up the door unnecessarily, and to be honest, they've scored an own goal. Shiism has got nothing to do with racism. There's no nexus with it whatsoever. And really, they need to look at what's in their own books before they start pointing fingers at us.
By the way, no more CDL. No more CDL. I'm done with CDL, by the way.
To be honest, Kalam, we were forced into this. Obviously, you got sucked in too. That's why we come. Yeah. But inshallah, we'll carry on doing that.
Guys, we didn't even mention the other racist things that we mentioned about Berbers, for example, the Egyptians, the Turks, the Chinese. so
Kalam, you know what? We
didn't have time to do.
Kalam, you know, we had content that if these guys were to know it, or even the general viewers, they would have probably contemplated to commit suicide. It's that serious stuff. But we held back. We have some shame, but these people have no shame. You know, what can you do?
As a mukhtasar, as just last summary of my words, my closing words is: listen. As far as any Sunni brother, said Hassan, could you just mute it for 1 second? Said, if any Sunni brothers are watching or listening, remember, at the end of the day, Kalam's got a wide audience of non-Muslim people. Our issue here is not to show Islam or Sunni Islam or Shia Islam in a bad light per se. However, in polemics, if one side want to try and use a card to basically discredit a side, we then say, listen, you're being hypocritical because your own sources contain something much worse. At least we're able to reject it or reinterpret it. You can't even do that. And your scholars have issued legal rulings based on those narrations. So our point in doing this is just to show people's hypocrisy. In terms of people, Muslims don't follow these principles. We all know generally Muslims don't follow. But if you want to open the books and get technical, we can do that. But therefore, from today, our mission is not to make Islam look bad. So I'm sorry if someone's seeing this. I don't want no non-Muslim to look at this and say, oh, you know, Islam's about racism. No one practices this. However, in polemics, when people try and be hypocritical, we have to put them in their place. And that was the only reason we done this. Absolutely. And inshallah, the CDL, we're done with the CDL. CDL stands for the Comedy Defense League.
Can we play the closing music?
Yeah, please. Can you play something?
Close the music.
I'm going to play the closing music.
Close the music. Close the music. Please. Just once. So Kalam, I'll leave it with Kalam. I'll leave it with you, bro, now.
Oh man, Chase. You know what? My brothers went in. They went in, okay? I know this has turned out to be like a 3-hour long show, yeah, but god damn it. This information needed to come out. It needed to be let known to the world right now. All right. Again. I just want to reiterate what the brothers said. This isn't to make Islam look bad. I'm pretty sure that all my brothers here are definitely practicing Muslims, Shia Muslims at that. And it's not to say Islam is racist. Islam is free from racism. Okay. Islam is free from racism. But at the same time, you can find within side of, you know, the so-called Islamic world, or within side of certain, so-called Islamic scholars, that their works hold racial biases. They hold racial prejudices. They hold racial views. They may even hold racial slurs. They may even be policies that's been put in place that are racist. They may even be, I'm not even going to hide it from you. I'm going to tell you, yes, there is something called Arab supremacy. Okay, there is something called, what's the word? Shabab? What's that word again for nationality?
You said it last time.
Yes.
Racism,
nationalism.
Okay, and this was very much so prevalent, within side of the Umayyad period. Okay, within side of the Umayyad Caliphate. Okay, within side of that period there, it was kind of heavy still. Okay, it was very, very heavy. The Abbasid period, it even got worse. It got worse. So there is a lot of that going on. I'm not even going to front to you, but the core teachings of Islam, the core teachings that what I'm calling Islam is the Quran. Okay, I'll tell you this from now, just to let you guys know, I myself have never found anything racist within inside of the Quran. Okay, if we start going into these miscellaneous hadiths, okay, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, there is some things that look a bit strange, but the Quran and what was taught, the Sunnah and the Quran and the Prophet's family
are clear. Family are clear from this completely.
It is clear as the sun in the mid-day zenith. I'm gonna use them ones there. So I can't find any racism with that. So I just want to make that be clear to the listening audience right now. But this needed to be done. This needed to be done. And I think that my Sunni brothers should really start reflecting, should really start looking at these hadiths and looking at the way that they interpret the hadiths, looking at the way their methodology for accepting hadiths as well. because it needs to be done, because we cannot lie and say that racism does not exist. Okay, I can't tell you that racism does not exist, and I'm going to be clear as day as well. I'm going to say, yeah, my Shia brothers here, they're free from it. Okay, the Prophet's family is free from it. But I would not pretend and say there may not be racism within inside of the Shia scholars of some era, of some stage. Like I'm sure there is. Okay, racism is just something that creeps in to the human heart and soul. But I'm making it clear yet again. Quran, you ain't gonna find no racism. Sunnah, you're not gonna find no racism. And also, you know, the Ahlul Bayt, you're not gonna find racism. These are the three things. Yeah, as far as I've seen and known. Yeah, there ain't no racism in that. So yeah, family. Yeah, 3-hour long show. It's been crazy still.
Get the chunks out. Get the chunks out. Get the best chunks out, Kalam. Do your thing, bro. Do your cutting in it.
Trust me. I need, you know, and that might have to be tomorrow thing. I'm still working on, you know, somebody else in the show from yesterday. Yeah. So family, this is what I would love for you guys to do. Yeah, is hit the like button. Okay, we got over 170 odd people tuned in right now. We've had, I'm pretty sure, about at least 4,000 people coming in and out viewing these shows. Yeah. But all we need from you guys is to make sure you hit the like button. The like button is not helping me. It's not aiding me. I'm not being paid by hitting the like button. The like button is to make sure that other people are made aware of this show. It's to make this video rank high enough that more people that are interested in this topic or aren't even familiar with this topic, okay, but needs to be made aware of this topic, are made aware. Okay, it's for that and that purpose alone. So I would love for you guys, yeah, just to hit the like button, yeah, show the brothers that you actually support them, you love the information that they've been dishing out, because I know I've learned a thing or two. I know I'm gonna have to be going back. Okay, this is all stored in the archives right now, but I'm gonna have to be going back with pen and paper and doing my good research as well. So hopefully on here on Talk with the Titans, yeah, I want to breed researchers. Everything that you see on here, I want you to have the lens of, I don't believe you. I don't believe anything that you said to me. I want to check it out. I want to check it out. And that's the way you increase your iman. That's the way you increase your faith.
No doubt.
It's by not simply accepting what somebody says to you, but by actually searching for it, by actually checking it, sourcing it, and so forth. And you will grow in your knowledge. Knowledge is the starting point of faith. Okay, knowledge or iman literally means to be secured or to be made firm. You dig what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to do is make you lot firm in what you know, rather than what you simply hear and accept, which is belief. All right, family. You know, we've just got a little quick donation. AX says, big up to the Shias and you, Kalam. Love from Cali, all the way from Cali, tuned in right now, checking it. So that's big. Love you guys, man. I love you guys. Again, family, we're going to be signing out. I know you guys want to jump in, and I will post up the link. Yeah, just stay on. I'm going to sign out, but we'll post up the link so you can jump into the description box after the show is finished, jump in and get involved with some conversations. I'm not too sure if my brothers are going to be here, but of course, we're definitely going to have like
some of us might stay, some of us might leave.
There we go. So we're normally going to have our after show discussion. So once the show is finished, the link will be placed up and you can join in afterwards. Okay, give it about 1 minute after the show is finished. I just want to talk to the brothers for a little while before we add extra people in. So please, in a minute's time, go check the comment section, or sorry, go check the description box down below, and you'll find everything that you need to come in and join us. Family, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute treat. I've had you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, of the greatest Shia scholars. I'm calling you lot scholars. Listen, shush your mouth. Everybody mute your mics right now. Mute your mics, yeah. All right. And the reason why I'm calling everybody here scholars, yeah, and you know, we have a saying of this, yeah, is each one teach one. Okay, each one teach one. So simply, if somebody does not know something, okay, and you do know that thing, guess what? You're actually an expert to that person. You have that level of knowledge that puts you above that individual.
I'm going to link you to Imam Ali right now. Imam Ali said the person who teaches you one letter is your teacher.
Jeez. There you go. There you go. I told you, baby. I told you. It's flowing through my... It's flowing... It's there, baby. All right, family. Love you guys, yeah, and I'm gonna see you guys on the other side. Trust me. Peace and love.
Ya Ali.
Ya Ali.